To join my brother shortly. I know I started the stream last minute. I wasn't even going to have a stream, but of course we had breaking news tonight, or really all day today, primarily this morning. If you've been under a rock, Israel has been striking Lebanon harder than they ever had in the last 40 days since this war had started. Interesting timing, since there was just, of course, a ceasefire. So we're going to go into all the details, what this looks like for the future. And the biggest story, or the other biggest story aside from this Lebanon attack, is the fact that there is peace talks in Islamabad or Pakistan on Friday between the Middle Eastern envoy that Trump has always deployed out to the Middle East to negotiate with Iran, Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister, and others. That's going to be Stephen Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and it was supposed to be J.D. Vance, but now I'm seeing reports that J.D. Vance won't make it. I have a theory as to why potentially J.D. Vance won't be a part of that anymore. And I think it'll catch a lot of you by surprise. However, it may be a little bit conspiratorial. I like to think that my theory may actually line up with the truth as time progresses. We'll see the reason to come into fruition as to what I'm stating tonight. So we'll cover all of that. We'll have my brother on in a moment. I know he's about to jump on and everything like that. And before we join him, I suppose we can read this article just so you guys can get an update as to what's been happening. And I'll wait to see whenever he's ready to jump on.
Blackmailing their way toward.
Okay, he started already.
So to America.
Very quickly, we'll go over what happened. Very quick updates. So remember, there was a ceasefire yesterday, and Donald Trump bragged all over Truth Social. He said, "We made a deal. Everything is good. Hopefully, we'll have good relations with Iran moving forward." You know, he said, let out another post last night at around 12:19 p.m. Eastern time, and I read that on stream last night, and where Trump had spoke very hopefully and optimistically of the future with Iran to come. Then, obviously, strikes were continuing in Lebanon, but it seemed like there was a vague message from Israel and Iran that these strikes would stop. Of course, Iran has a mosaic defense. A lot of these military factions operate independently throughout all of Iran or the Iranian province, and so the strikes hadn't stopped right away in the Gulf. But the reason for that, at least the suspected reason for that, was because all of the individual leadership with their small groups or platoons had not gotten the message yet that a ceasefire was officially underway. As we know, Iran operates autonomously of one big chain of command or from one big military leader. The reason why they operate like that is because the United States systematically kills all of their leadership, so they have to operate independently of such said leadership. That's what mosaic defense is, really, in a nutshell. And so there was a delay for the stop of strikes on these Gulf countries and any other countries in the region. And so maybe that's why everybody had assumed that the Israeli strikes in Lebanon would stop as well. Once the Gulf countries stopped getting hit, once Israel stopped getting hit, once sirens stopped sounding in Israel, well, then Lebanon would follow up and peace ensues in Lebanon. That has not been the case. This morning, Israel has hit Lebanon harder than it has ever hit Lebanon in the 40 days. Very ironic. So reports are in the range of around 250 dead in Lebanon. I'm seeing different numbers. I'm seeing 189 from the public health ministry, but I'm also seeing 250, all from credible sources. Of course, we're in the midst of war. We're in the fog of war. And so you're going to see conflicting numbers as time continues to develop, but hopefully we get a more concrete number. 700 to 1,000 plus are easily injured. And if you don't know, since the start of this war, Israel's been hitting Lebanon very hard, and they've displaced over 1 million people out of their homes. So lots of people in Lebanon are without homes, and they're still subject to strikes as of 2 hours ago from what I'm reading online. So as we're speaking, they're still hitting southern Lebanon. And on top of that, it seems like now we're getting strikes in Beirut, which is the capital of Lebanon. And we were getting that previously, and now I'm seeing that that's happening again. Here's the problem. One of the stipulations in the 10-point plan that Iran had proposed to the United States in order to stop this war was for Lebanon to stop being subject to Israeli attack. If you don't know, the reason why Lebanon has been targeted is because an Iranian proxy exists there. That's Hezbollah. However, Hezbollah has been more than willing to stop the fighting so long as Israel, of course, stops first. Israel wants to annex southern Lebanon. They want to take it over. They believe the land belongs to them. It's kind of simple. And so if they have even the smallest or smidge reason to continuously attack Lebanon, they will grab at that opportunity to no stop. So now Iran, this morning, closed the Strait of Hormuz again after just opening it back up to relieve some oil pressure around the entire world. Of course, the reason is because Israel broke one of the stipulations that they had proposed to the United States for the ceasefire. However, J.D. Vance was on the tarmac today outside of Air Force One, and he was answering some questions, and he said there were 3 different 10-point plans floating around. Everybody had a different one. One was made by ChatGPT, one we believe to be real, and then one that was greatly exaggerated with maximalist demands. I will acknowledge Iran's 10-point plan, and God knows if we're all looking at the right one, but we can kind of make a good discernment as to what they're going to ask for, does have some maximalist demands. But here's the difference. They're completely within their right and their prerogative to ask for such large deals, to make such a maximalist demand. Why? Because they are the ones who have been aggressed upon. They are the ones who are honestly defending themselves. The United States is the aggressor. Israel is the aggressor. Iran has stood at bay and defended themselves. Unfortunately, the Gulf countries had been subject to attack via their defense. But what else are they going to do? Take on the United States and Israel head on? Were you born yesterday? That's impossible. Their power does not even come close to that of the United States from the air, from the water, or any other aspect. Which is why the missiles program is so powerful. By the way, something Benjamin Netanyahu has voiced concern about since June in the 12-day war, because they saw how capable it was when it hit Israel during that 12-day conflict. Okay, so in this 10-point plan, one of the asks, and look, allegedly now there's different 10-point plans floating around. J.D. Vance thinks that he debunked something. We know that Iran is asking for peace in Lebanon because the foreign minister gave us a statement today. Isn't that nice? He said there will be no concession unless there's peace in Lebanon. If there's no peace in Lebanon, this is Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister of affairs within Iran, a part of the Iranian regime, the IRGC, he says war will continue. And so obviously Israel knows that. The Times of Israel actually quoted such a statement, and they quoted the 10-point plan. And the 10-point plan that the Israeli source had reported upon, you want to know what they acknowledged in that 10-point plan? Peace in Lebanon. You want to know what Benjamin Netanyahu said today? And he said previously throughout the entirety of this conflict, he said, we are not going to stop our operations against Hezbollah, aka southern Lebanon is going to continuously get striked until we see fit that it must stop. So now we have a situation where Washington has actually made a deal with Iran. And of course, like everybody had predicted, it wouldn't be hard to see this coming. Israel's in the middle, sabotaging it. And now I'm waiting for condemnation from Washington. Pete Hegseth and Caroline Leavitt spoke today, this morning, from the White House or the Pentagon, one of the two. We're going to react to it. The White House, sorry. And they struggled to actually deal with the questions that they were receiving. And I only saw bits and pieces. I didn't get to watch it in its entirety due to the fact that I was at work. But what I can tell you is a lot of journalists are probably going to ask the right questions, into which will you see the wrong answers. No doubt about that. So we'll join Myron right now. He's already reacting to Pete Hegseth. But that's where we are.
May 1st.
That's where we are. And of course, you've got Donald Trump condemning. I just tweeted this. You've got Donald Trump condemning the NATO countries for not joining this war after he just brokered some sort of peace deal. At least Pakistan helped broker it in other countries. And now Israel's hitting Lebanon and you're still condemning NATO? Hey, dumbass. Hey, dumbass. The country that we're so closely allied with is dragging us back into war when we're asking for an obvious 2-week breather. And you take the time to condemn NATO. You can't make it up. You cannot make it up. So we will react to the press conference right now. But that is currently how the conflict sits. Crazy, crazy. And I uploaded a video today at around 2 p.m. I had it scheduled from last night, just about my stream yesterday. I clipped up my stream from yesterday about how we had a peace deal, how long I think it'll last. And before I could upload the video, Israel struck Lebanon. So as of right now, from what I'm seeing, the Strait of Hormuz is closed. That's the biggest demand the United States is desperately asking for so they can actually honor the 2-week peace deal. But at the same time, Iran cannot open up the Strait of Hormuz and concede if southern Lebanon and their proxy continues to be subject to attack by Israel. 1 million people are displaced. So one second, guys. We'll have Myron joining us in a moment. Okay. All right. So I will read this report out of AP News while we're waiting. Okay. So, and of course, the entire world acknowledges the fact that the ceasefire is under threat. By the way, J.D. Vance actually acknowledged the fact that the ceasefire is fragile. Isn't that interesting? He knows that it's fragile, you know, despite the fact that Donald Trump is expressing that this ceasefire is great and that we're going to have peace and it's all great. And I mean, when is he not boastful and just dramatic? But J.D. Vance probably understands the reality of the situation and the gravity a lot better. And there's a desperation from J.D. Vance to kind of diffuse this, be responsible for diffusing this, and brush it under the rug, because he wants to be the one who invoked peace. He wants to be the guy who brokered the deal. He wants to be the guy who had the negotiations with the foreign minister. So, yo,
what up, man?
What's going on, bro?
I was watching the Pete Hegseth thing.
Yeah, we could jump straight into it.
Yeah, I got it. Let me. What the hell? Okay, let me turn this on, and then I know what I'm gonna do. Hold on, I gotta move some of this shit up. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen or no? Oh no, you can't. Hold on, I gotta share it. Hold on.
Harry, dead.
So he's already telling the lies about they had to capitulate and accept the deal. Yeah, facts. Bro, you know what's funny? Um Lebanon was getting bombed as Caroline Leavitt was like doing her press conference this morning. Yeah. Like this, literally as she was doing her press conference, they were getting bombed. Israel was bombing the hell out of Lebanon. They had one of the biggest strikes, guys. Mhm. Yep. Yeah.
Lebanon is being destroyed to bits. Hundreds of people are being killed. More people are being
That's your
displaced.
computer, I
There's
think.
already millions that are displaced right now, or 1
Yeah,
million
it's a
plus
reverb.
are being killed. More
Yep,
people are
that's
being
your
displaced.
computer, I
There's
think.
already millions that are displaced. Is that me?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
sorry.
a reverb.
Yep,
That's your computer.
The Supreme Leader Office
Hold on.
Advisor.
No, I think that's you.
Yeah, it's me. Hold on, give me one sec, chat. That's your computer.
The Supreme Leader Office
Hold on.
Advisor.
No, I think that's you.
It's me. Hold on, give me one sec, chat.
Dead. The Supreme Leader Office
Hold on.
Advisor.
No, I think that's
Fuck.
you.
It's me. Hold on, give me one sec, chat. Hold on, chat. Give me one sec.
The Supreme Leader Office
Hold on.
Advisor.
Sorry, guys. I just saw I was muted. Holy L. At least you heard me before I joined Myron, all right? At least you heard me before I joined Myron. I repeated myself. Don't worry.
There we go. Okay, my bad. Let's get back to it.
The Supreme Leader Military Office Chief. Dead. The Defense Minister. No longer with us. The IRGC Commander. Dead. The Armed Forces General Staff Commander. Dead. The Intelligence Minister. Dead. The IRGC Navy Commander. No longer here. The IRGC Intel Chief. Dead. I skipped over a bunch and I could go on and on and on to include the so-called new Supreme Leader wounded and disfigured. This new regime was out of options and out of time, so they cut a deal. They know this agreement means that they will never, ever possess a nuclear weapon.
See, that's already contradicting because in their 10-point plan, they would enrich uranium. So
Exactly.
there's already contradictions all over the place here.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is what happens
Under the
when you
terms-
lie. It's just going to crumble right in front of you.
You know what we should do? Riyadh, while I'm playing this, can you pull up the 10-point plan and then the 15-point
Yeah.
plan? Let's put them side by side
Sure.
so we can really like get the audience aware on this.
Any nuclear
However,
material
I don't know
they
if you
should
saw
have
really quickly,
will
J.D. Vance today was saying that there's different 10-point plans and some of them are fake, some of them are real, but I believe I have the real one here. So
Yeah. Yeah. Like, dude, it's such fucking cope, man. Like, And the latest news I heard is both the Israelis were bombing the hell out of Lebanon. We're talking. Last numbers I checked was 250 dead, 1,200 injured.
Yep.
There's probably going to be hundreds more dead because of the rubble. But they launched a huge attack against Lebanon, and Lebanon seems to be the sticking point. Chat. Iran said they're not going to do a ceasefire unless Lebanon is brought into the deal. The Israelis are saying Lebanon's not a part of the deal. I think even JD Vance said Lebanon's not a part of it, right?
So I think that's why he tried to conflate the fact that there's several different 10-point plans, because he wants to be able to lean on the idea that Lebanon was never included because they can't stop Israel from striking them. So originally, Lebanon was absolutely a part of the 10-point plan. You know how we know that? Because Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister of affairs, had said in a statement today and several statements previously that Lebanon must be conceded upon for us to open up the Strait of Hormuz and for war to not continue. So not only has it been in the 10-point plan, the one that he's about to reject right now in this video you're playing, but the foreign minister of affairs confirmed that's actually one of the biggest asks they have in this war right now. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, Trump posted on True Social too.
He absolutely did. So this whole administration is running all over each other.
Yeah, bro. So. Yeah, like just so you guys know, you know what, man? You guys already know. I always show you guys the fucking. If we go to True Social, right? Look at this shit. And I did this yesterday side by side. So we're gonna go and look at Trump's original post on peace, right? Look at this. Syed Abbas Araghchi. This is the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So Trump posted the official statement of Iran. Now let me take you guys to this guy's Twitter account. So if we go here, Araghchi, here's his Twitter. Look at this. Boom. Statement on behalf of the Supreme National Security Council of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Yep.
Like, Trump used their shit. So you could presume if he's posting this on his True Social and this is their statement, then, you know, I'm assuming and also the other thing too is like the 10-point plan is Iran's, the 15-point plan is the US's.
The US, yeah.
And we can kind of, do you have them both up? You want to compare and contrast them?
Yes, I have them both. So here we can go through all of them. I'll take the screen. So this is obviously the True Social post, just so you guys know.
I got it right up here.
Should be able to see that. So again, this is Truth Social, and this is Donald Trump quoting them a day ago saying the official statement of Iran. This is what you just showed on X. So Trump himself endorsed Araghchi's post. However, the 10-point plan is comprised of these things. This is the most consistent one I've seen across the board. You can read all of these, but of course, permanent end to the war, end to Israeli strikes in Lebanon. Okay? And this is the most consistent ask that I'm seeing across all of them. There is some nuance between what the stipulations are in regards to the Strait of Hormuz from the different ones that I've seen, but the most consistent ask is the end to strikes in Lebanon, and we can confirm that because Araghchi said in a statement today that that has to end for the ceasefire to be honored. The 15-point plan is as follows. This was posted by our guy Suleiman a few days ago.
Now this is the U.S.
This is the U.S. 15-point plan. And this
Go ahead. I got to bring on my screen.
Yeah, about a few days ago. And also, there has been some debate as to what the true 15-point plan was. 2 weeks ago, Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, had told the media that not all of the details for the 15-point plan are quote-unquote clear, but at this point, it's become more than clear what the United States is requesting because the ceasefire has fully taken effect, at least to some degree. Hopefully, it'll actually be a long period of time and not short-lived. But I'll read through these. So, number one is removal of all sanctions on or 15-point plan.
That's the number one thing they care about.
Removal of all sanctions on Iran. U.S. assistance in advancing and developing a civilian nuclear project. Removal of the threat of sanctions being reimposed. Iran's nuclear program is frozen under a defined framework. Enriched uranium to remain, but under supervision and agreed limits. Missile program to be addressed at a later stage with limits on quantity and range. That's probably never going to be met, especially the range part. Use of nuclear programs restricted to civilian/defensive purposes only. 8, development of existing nuclear capabilities halted. 9, no further expansion of enrichment capabilities. 10, no production of weapons-grade nuclear material on Iranian soil. 11, all enriched material to be handed over to the IAEA with an agreed timeline. 12, Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordow to be taken out of use, destroyed. Those are the nuclear sites. 13, international monitoring and verification mechanisms enforced. 14, gradual implementation tied to compliance. 15, additional regional and security understandings between the parties. Now, it's important to note Donald Trump on Truth Social, and I might actually just be able to pull it up here. He had said that the United States is going to work from the framework of this 10-point plan. Okay, and I'll read the 10-point plan because I didn't read through it, and I'm sure some people are listening. So Iran has a 10-point plan. Iran had a 10-point peace plan that was in response to the existing U.S. 15-point peace plan. This is what Iran is asking for.
They counter with this one.
Exactly. A guarantee that Iran will not be attacked again. Permanent end to the war, not just a ceasefire. 3, end to Israeli strikes in Lebanon. 4, lifting of all U.S. sanctions on Iran. 5, end to all regional fighting against Iranian allies. 6, Iran would reopen the Strait of Hormuz. 7, Iran would impose a $2 million fee per ship transiting Hormuz. 8, Iran would split these fees with Oman. If you don't know, Oman is on the other side of the 21-mile passageway, and so they also control the Strait of Hormuz. At least they were before this started. 9, Iran would establish rules for safe passage through the Hormuz. And then finally, 10, Iran would use Hormuz fees for reconstruction instead of reparations. And Donald Trump had said on Truth Social that we are going to work from the framework of the 10-point plan in response to our 15-point plan and hopefully come to a deal on Friday in Pakistan.
Where's that Truth Social post? You have it? That where he says they're going to work off the 10-point?
Yeah, give me one
second. Can you pull it up? Because that's huge. Because, bro, they're stepping over each other, man, over this shit. Here's JD Vance talking about Lebanon.
Oh, okay. I have it here. I could show it.
You have it? Go ahead, pull it up.
Yep. So if you're watching, just look where I'm highlighting, but I'll go ahead and read it for the listeners. So boom, obviously yesterday he had the whole big announcement that there's going to be peace. But in here he says, quote, "We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate. Almost all of the various points of past contention have been agreed to between the United States and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated." So there you go. There's all the facts for you straight in your face.
And then here now, look at this shit with JD Vance. Volume. Okay.
And there's a lot of bad faith negotiation and a lot of bad faith, propaganda going on. I think this comes from a legitimate misunderstanding. I think the Iranians thought that the ceasefire included Lebanon, and it just didn't. We never made that promise. We never indicated that was going to be the case. What we said is...
In their 10-point plan, it's there, though. Like, what? What are you talking about?
And
the ceasefire would be focused on...
He better believe that if he's going to be a part of those peace talks on Friday, which now I'm seeing he won't, but if he wanted to be a part of those peace talks...
Did they already pull him off? Did they already pull him off the fucking envoy?
I saw some sources floating around, or some claims from some valid sources, that he might not be a part of the envoy anymore. And I think one of them seemed to be from Trump himself. However, I got to confirm that right now. But if he wants to be a part of those talks, then he better acknowledge that. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say Araghchi doesn't want to talk to Kushner and Witkoff anymore.
Yeah.
He said if we're going to negotiate, we need JD Vance here. We need someone that's, basically, for lack of a better term, knows what they're doing.
Yeah. And JD Vance wants the peace, right? Because he wants to look good in 28. But I don't know. If I'm not crazy, and somebody in chat can confirm, I've seen a couple reports today that he won't be a part of the talks anymore on Friday, and it's just going to be the plain old, same old Middle Eastern envoy. However, I could be wrong, but I'm sure JD Vance probably wants peace to happen more than anybody, and he wants to be able to be the one who effectuated peace so he can use it and weaponize it as a bragging right in 2028 on the debate stage and so on. So, no doubt about that. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Iran. And the ceasefire would be focused on America's allies, both Israel and the Gulf Arab states. Now, that said, the Israelis, as I understand it, again, I'm supposed to get a fuller report when I get on the plane, have actually offered to be, frankly, to check themselves a little bit in Lebanon because they want to make sure that our negotiation is successful. That's not because that is part of the ceasefire. I think that's the Israelis trying to set us up for success, and we'll, of course, see how that unfolds in the next few days. But look, if Iran wants to let this negotiation fall apart in a conflict where they were getting hammered over Lebanon, which has nothing to do with them and which the United States never wants...
No, they have a lot to do with them.
Yep.
Like, they have a lot to do with them. They're
complete lies. He's just flat out lying. He's just flat out lying, And I have the source here, so I'll go ahead and pull that up after you finish this video.
Said was part of the ceasefire. That's ultimately their choice. We think that would be dumb, but that's their choice.
Well, they already said we're not agreeing to a ceasefire unless, because bro, right now, guys, I don't know. No, it's not really getting hit on the news. There's like 2 million Lebanese people, civilians, that are like displaced from their homes right now. It's like a catastrophe. And then they bombed the hell out of Beirut earlier today, which is also really bad. So
Absolutely.
it's nuts.
Absolutely. And so this is here on X, but it says Trump expects, and this is from allegedly the New York Post. This is by Disclosed TV. It says Trump expects peace talks with Iran to happen in Pakistan, quote, very soon, end quote, but that Vance may not attend due to security concerns. So we'll have Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and then he says, maybe JD, I don't know. There's a question of safety and security. And it's floating around. Obviously, there's different ideas. We're like in the fog of war and then the fog of just media confliction, to be honest with you. But that's something to entertain. And if Vance doesn't show up to those talks on Friday, that'll be very telling as to what the relationship is like between Donald Trump and JD Vance. Maybe Donald Trump doesn't want to help JD Vance look good for 28. Maybe Marco Rubio is going to be the cash cow. So just very interesting things to see here. Little things that you pay attention to give you a better scope for the next couple years. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Rojo Cortez, love your sacrifice to get the truth out, my guy. Dad had no idea about U.S. putting Starlink in Iran, nor about Iranians congregating at power plants. Yeah, bro. I'm telling you, man, we got you guys. I might debate Crowder on this topic. We'll see what happens. Apparently, he challenged me to a debate. So we'll see. We can definitely do it. And I need to debate Dinesh Souza as well. So, you know, we're gonna have some good discussions. Myron Filter, thank you for the 5 gifted, and We the People 101 and Evil Johan. Thank you guys.
Removed. Any material, they should not have, will be removed. Right now, their dust is deeply buried and watched 24/7 overhead. The president has been clear from the beginning there will be no Iranian nuclear weapons. Period. Full stop. Other presidents said it. President Trump did it. Operation Epic Fury.
See, I love how they say, oh, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, but then they'll be like, oh, you also can't enrich. People need to understand that there's a difference, a big difference between enriching uranium and getting a nuclear bomb. Like, one is for civilian energy, the other one is to kill people, right? And it's not easy to run all these centrifuges to get uranium at 90%, highly enriched.
Exactly.
Which is weapons grade.
Less than 6 weeks, clear mission, decisive action, overwhelming firepower, America first, a historic.
This is not America first whatsoever, bro.
Oh my God, there's no way he said that.
He really said America.
This,
like,
this
bro,
is
it's
gonna be a raw reaction because I did not get to watch this morning. So
you didn't see this? I didn't watch it either, but I saw that they were live.
Battlefield victory. For decades, Iran killed Americans with roadside bombs in Iraq, using cowardly proxies to do their dirty work while they hid safely in Tehran. They struck our embassies with car bombs and attacked from the shadows, never daring to face us toe-to-toe. They thought they could bleed America with impunity. Well, they just learned the hard way. What is when you try to fight us directly? And even when they got lucky, one time in 40 days, and downed 2 of our pilots, they couldn't hold them. In a daring 14-hour rescue operation, 7 hours in daylight and 7 hours of night, both pilots were recovered.
Yeah. What he's not telling you guys is that there was a CIA black operation going on, and that F-15 fighter jet getting shot down was literally the worst thing that could happen. It completely blew their cover. And if you guys got questions, I made a whole video on this, okay? So I don't have to rehash it again. If you go to my channel real quick, right? You type in, right, Myron Gaines, whatever. And then you come in here, click videos. There we go. Why Trump risked losing? Why Trump risked losing for one F-15 colonel? Oh my God, I got to get with Brett. That title is terrible, but you guys get the idea. This video right here, I explained it aircraft in detail. I go over what a weapon system officer is. I go over special forces, all the different types of operators. So yeah, I'll drop this link for you guys so you guys can check it out. But yeah, long story short, dude, there was a black operation going on between the intel agencies, and basically they got foiled because the F-15 got shot down, so they had to burn their cover. How do we know this? Because there was a ridiculous amount of unorthodox aircraft that aren't used for rescue missions. That's how we know.
Safely, not once, but
also a weapon system officer being a colonel is highly suspect.
Yeah.
Highly suspect.
That's
twice.
One of the many red flags, exactly.
A daylight thunder run right up the middle of their country. Boots on the ground. A midnight raid right up the middle.
And this raid that they were doing, by the way, guys, the reason why they were setting up all these, special operations over there is because they were planning to assault Isfahan because they had information that there was highly enriched uranium there. I don't know how many hundreds of kilos, but apparently there was some there, and that is why special forces that created kind of like a forward operating base, and they were kind of slowly getting all their resources together. And I honestly think that operation is what Trump was waiting on. That's why he was trying to use the MEUs and the Marines and all this other crap to like kind of create a diversion while they assault the nuclear facility. But obviously that 15 got shot down, so they had to completely pivot. Another clue here is that if you guys notice, they brought Ratcliffe on to do a lot of the briefing. Why the hell is the CIA running a military operation? Anytime you see the CIA running a military operation like that, it's pretty much going to be black ops, right? So those guys were there, trying to basically steal uranium is what it is. And then they even found like a military ID of a woman who's, I think she was like a nuclear engineer or like a nuclear specialist or whatever.
Allegedly a nuclear scientist, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously, when you get the highly enriched uranium, you have to dispose of it in a certain way, you have to carry it in a certain way, you got to transport it in a certain way. That's why they had 2 MC-130s there, which are huge planes that is basically the brother of the C-130, but the MC-130 stands for M, for modified. That is a more classified and better version of the typical C-130. But yeah, they're not admitting any of this. They're saying, oh yeah, because they basically have reframed this failure as a big W for getting the weapon system officer. But now it makes sense why they were so desperate to get him. Because I was like, damn, this is a kind of overkill. But now we know why.
Exactly. Now that you just said it, how many people we sent in, how many different aircraft we sent in, how many diversion tactics we exercised in order to receive or retract.
The CIA ran it.
Extract
that's
that
the big
pilot.
red flag. CIA ran it.
And people may say, oh, well, that's the American way, no man behind. Yeah, that's true. I concede to that. But, Donald Trump was kind of going into some of the details about how his head was moving on the mountain. And he mentioned that, there were a lot of people. Can I tell them how many people were there? How many people we sent out to save him? And right away, he looked back either to Joint Chiefs of Staff, Raising Cane, or John Ratcliffe, and they told him, yeah, don't say that. And he said, oh, I guess I can't say that. You may remember that moment from Monday in the press conference. So it's obvious that there's some vagueness for a reason, and they don't want to fully display their desperation because it's kind of an out. If they had caught that colonel, that would have been really bad, not only from an optic standpoint and symbolically, but who knows what kind of information the Iranians could have potentially extracted and what they could have found out in regards to what operation was being planned.
Fun fact, by the way, guys, they were using this technology called like murmur, and what it basically does is it tracks people's heartbeat. Something that was like ultra classified that they utilized. That's another reason why I think this colonel. Okay, here's what it is. You have SEAL Team 6, Delta Force, Army Rangers holding the perimeter. You got these guys, search and rescue team for the, I think it's the SST or whatever in the Air Force, also Tier 1 operators. Like all these guys are there staging, right? The F-15 was a part of that group, right? They get shot down. That explains why there's a colonel there, because obviously this is going to be an extremely classified mission. They're going to pick the best and the brightest. So it would make sense that a colonel would be the weapons system officer, and then more than likely the pilot was probably high ranking as well. Because whenever you do these operations, guys, it's all about selecting the best of the best. Delta Force pulls from the best people. Obviously, we know SEAL Team 6 or tier 1, and the Army Rangers kill a lot of people. So they had all these guys kind of situated there, and the reason why the CIA was able to track this colonel is more than likely they had some type of a sensor on him, so they were able to track his heartbeat.
Yeah.
So how the hell
a beacon
the colonel
on him too, and then the heartbeat tracker.
Yeah, beacon, yeah.
That's what's suspect.
Yes. So the beacon is like standard, but the heartbeat shit, that's a CIA asset, and the only way that a colonel would get that's a weapon system officer, is he had to be attached to an elite unit, which is probably these guys.
Yeah.
That's the only explanation I could think of. So,
of their country.
But Hegseth obviously is not going to tell any of you that.
Boots on the ground. 0 American casualties.
I also think this is another reason too why Trump agreed to the ceasefire. He was probably banking on that operation, bro.
Well, this operation blew up in their face, and this is our last resort because nothing else has been working. Nothing else has been working. The IRGC has mosaic defense. We've destroyed tons of infrastructure, but to no avail. The only other options left were full-blown ground invasion or destroying their power plants, and those were 2 risks that it seems like Donald Trump was not willing to risk. This seemed like the only option they could exercise that was kind of under wraps, that the CIA was obviously helping with for the reason of keeping it secret. That's the whole premise of the CIA, right? So once that blew up in their face, they probably had to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, like there was probably less than 100. I was saying this yesterday. There's probably like that black operation that they were doing. There's probably less than 100 people in the government that even knew what was going on. Guaranteed. So
the Iranians humiliated and demoralized. We control their fate, not the other way around. That's why they came to the table. Iran's defeat is America's retribution for...
They didn't even come to the table. This is what happened. The United States said, Donald Trump went on Truth Social and he said, look, we made a deal. At that point, it wasn't even clear if Iran had spoken with him, because he said, if they make a deal and open the Hormuz, then we have peace. About an hour later, maybe 45 minutes after that Truth Social post, then we were seeing verified reports that the IRGC had agreed to the deal so long as the 10-point plan was the basis of negotiations moving forward, which is what we're going to see on Friday. But to say that they came to the table, they have not come to the table yet. They're waiting until Friday, and it's 100% their prerogative and their move to continue or start the war back up, because all they have to do is just block the Strait of Hormuz again. What Pete Hegseth is not telling you is they've effectively, for lack of a better term, a good analogy, they've grabbed the United States by the balls. You know, they have us by the balls, and the only way for us to gain some sort of leverage is to guarantee we can take control of that strait. Donald Trump is panicking. Oil markets are skyrocketing because they can just continuously blockade ships. So, again, Pete Hegseth is just trying really hard to make it seem like we're the ones in control and we're the ones who won and we made Iran concede. No, we conceded because we started this war, and then we were the ones who said, all right, we'll take a break.
We'll keep going. Also, I got this retard. Cole Espo says Myron betrayed Rumble. Okay, well, you betrayed the Shadow Realm. Fucking retard. Enjoy the Shadow Realm, bro.
And lost to Iranian terror, especially those brave troops killed by Iranian-made roadside bombs in Iraq that my generation knows so well, and for the suffering their regime has inflicted around the world. Now we have a chance at real peace and a real deal. The War Department, for now, has done its part. We stand ready in the background to ensure Iran upholds every reasonable term. And as everyone knows, nobody makes a better deal than President Trump. To the warriors of epic fury, I say well done. You're the backbone of our country. Your skill, your bravery, and sheer guts and grit showed the world what America is all about. I'm proud of you. We're proud of you. President is proud of you. Job well done. But stay vigilant and stay ready. To the families of our fallen, your sacrifice was in service of a historic cause, and we will always remember your heroes, our heroes.
Israel's heroes.
We will continue to honor them.
Fucking crazy.
And to our Israeli allies, thank you for being a brave, capable, and willing ally on this battlefield. The rest of the world and the rest of our so-called allies saw what real capabilities look like.
Yeah, they can't wait to take shots at NATO, huh?
They should take some notes. Our troops, our American warriors, deserve the credit for this day. But God deserves all the glory. Tens of thousands of sorties, refuelings, and strikes carried out under the protection of divine providence. A massive effort with miraculous protection. Dude 44 Bravo spoke for all of us.
That was the F. I know you guys are. What the fuck is Dude 44?
Yeah.
That's the that's the call sign of the F15.
God is good. The chairman will now provide an even deeper military detail on the historic success of Operation Epic Fury. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being here. I want to start this morning by honoring the 13 members of our American Joint Force who were killed in...
Is it me or like this guy is extremely monotone, and it's like you could tell that he's in an Oval Office with Trump, like, okay, man, like you sure you want to do this, Mr. President? And Trump's like, yes, I want to do it. Like, all right, I guess we got the assets, but this is gonna be tough. It's just like he's just probably like, fuck.
To me, it seems like he's wearing the emotion of frustration much more than Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth publicly facing makes it seem like he's enthusiastic or ecstatic about the operation and makes it really seem like they're winning. And if you knew nothing and you were watching this, you would think that we're actually on the winning side of things and we made Iran concede. But with him, there's like it doesn't seem like he's all the way there on this. It kind of seems like he's opposing it. And he likely is, because this guy actually has the qualifications and the certifications to discern this is stupid,
Yeah. And I think they pulled him out of retirement and gave him his 4-star. That's what got him even out here. The guy was like retired, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you could tell that like this is the type of guy like, hey man, like, you sure you want to do this? Trump's probably like, yes, let's do it. He's like, all right, bro, whatever.
Action during this operation. Their sacrifice and that of their families is deeply important to us, and we are grateful. We are grateful for each of them, and will continue to mourn their loss. Their names and their bravery will never be forgotten. On February 28th, the President of the United States ordered the Joint Force to execute Operation Epic Fury with the direction to accomplish 3 distinct military objectives: destroy Iran's ballistic missile and drone capabilities, destroy the Iranian Navy, and destroy their defense industrial base to ensure that Iran cannot reconstitute the ability to project power outside their borders. Over the course of 38 days of major combat operation, the Joint Force achieved the military objectives as defined by the President.
Too late, bro. They're already going to get influence in the region. Like we're how are we going to rebuild our bases? Cooked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
we welcome the ongoing ceasefire, and as the Secretary said, we hope that Iran chooses a lasting peace. But as Secretary Hegseth said, let us be clear, a ceasefire is a pause, and the Joint Force remains ready, if ordered or called upon, to resume combat operations with the same speed and precision as we've demonstrated over the last 38 days, and we hope that that is not the case. I want to congratulate and thank the leadership today at U.S. Central Command, including the Commander Admiral Brad Cooper, the Deputy Commander Lieutenant General Kevin Leahy, the Senior Enlisted Leader Fleet Master Chief Compton, and every one of the component commanders, senior enlisted leaders, and especially the staff down at U.S. Central Command, who does not get called out for any of the credit, but grinds 24/7 to help offer the options that we bring to the Secretary and the President. I also want to highlight the forces in the United States European Command under the command of Alexis Grimwood.
Super chats, Desert Joe, thanks for letting me know I'm muted. He said, audio issues in your DNA. I agree. Trevor, thanks for the $1. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
you good.
I thank our partners across the intelligence community.
Trevor, thanks for the $1. Rambo's Meal, watching from work, greetings from Brazil. Thank you. Stretch Dub, podcast name for you and your brothers in arms. That's actually really fire. I'll mention that. And then Justin Pap 8, appreciate your hard work. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. Thanks, guys.
I want to thank the other combatant commands who have thus far contributed along the way to U.S. Central Command. This includes Transcom, Stratcom, Spacecom, SOCOM, and Cybercom, all of whom poured all in support of CENTCOM's efforts. And I want to thank, as the Secretary did, our Gulf partners who fought alongside each and every one of us every day. From the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and Jordan, all who joined us together to defend and protect our people and our assets, and who, if required, stand ready to do so again. And I want to thank my team at the Joint Staff who work literally around the clock in order to help me offer the options that I must. As the Secretary said, the United States has devastated the regime's ability to harm Americans.
Here we go, Glaze. Time.
And our interests for years to come. Since the beginning of major combat operations, the United States Joint Forces struck more than 13,000 targets, including in that 13,000, more than 4,000 dynamic targets that popped up on the battlefield and were immediately addressed, thanks to the exceptional command and control system and intelligence, acumen, and agility of our Joint Force. CENTCOM forces destroyed approximately 80% of Iran's air defense systems, striking more than 1,500 air defense targets, more than 450 ballistic missile storage facilities, 800 one-way attack drones storage facilities. All of these systems are gone. We've devastated Iran's command and control and logistical networks, destroying more than 2,000 command and control nodes and degrading their ability to target U.S. and friendly forces. It is, and we know this, incredibly frustrating right now to be a lower-level Iranian commander trying to fight your fight. As the Secretary said, the Iranian Navy now lies mostly at the bottom of the Arabian Gulf, and we assess that we've sunk more than 90% of their regular fleet, including all of the major surface combatants, as the Secretary said. 150 ships are at the bottom of the ocean.
They did destroy a good deal of the Navy, but the parts of the Navy that are critical for disrupting the Strait of Hormuz still exist. So however, you can brag about the fact that we've destroyed the Air Force, which was never really a competition at the end of the day. It wasn't not an issue to begin with. And then now the Navy, they still have these speedboats. They're still able to deploy the mines with some of the vessels that they use. So, I mean, if they can't eradicate that, then really they're still able to extract full benefit from the Navy, which is what has allowed them to get a leg up on us in this war. And then also he was talking about we destroyed their missile defense systems. What are you reading? I'm seeing conflicting reports, and I had somebody try to heckle me about this. The F-15 jet that was destroyed, was it an over-the-shoulder man-pads kind of strike, or was it from a surface-to-air missile launch pad? Do you know the details on that? Because what I'm reading conflicting reports. I know Trump had said it was man-pads, or the White House had said that, but I feel like it's beneficial for them to say that so that they can brag that they destroyed most of the missile defense systems.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry, bro.
No, I was asking the F-15 jet. What were you reading was responsible for destroying it? Was it
It was a Bavar with a Russian missile. Basically, Iran is basically their
surface-to-air missile.
The surface-to-air missile platform, and then they use Russian missiles on it.
Yeah,
that's what I was told.
And that's what I'm reading. But there's people who are saying it was man-pads. But I think that the United States wants to make it seem like it was some lucky, weird strike with low technology equipment to make it seem like they've destroyed most of it, when in actuality it was either Chinese or Russian technology that aided them, or both really in tandem. That destroyed that F-15.
And another thing too, I think the other reason why they don't want to admit it, because I think the pilots made a mistake. They probably flew too high.
Yeah.
And they got, because
exactly.
Guys, keep in mind, the F-15 Eagle is not a stealth aircraft. It is not a stealth aircraft. So that's what it is.
Yeah. And if it were to be subject
shoot it down.
If it were to be subject to destruction from man-pads or like an over-the-shoulder rocket, well, then it probably would have been lowered to the ground. So, it all kind of works out in regards to the surface-to-air missile theory from a launch pad. Go ahead.
The IRGC Navy small attack boats. Joint fires protected from the land, sea, and air executed more than 700 strikes against naval mine targets, and we had assessed that we destroyed more than 95% of their naval mines. And perhaps most importantly, we've destroyed Iran's defense industrial base, their ability to reconstitute those capabilities for years to come. We attacked, along with our partners, approximately 90% of their weapons factories. Every factory that produced Shahed one-way attack drones was struck. Every factory that produces the guidance systems that go into those drones was struck. Their missile defense industrial base is shattered, with more than 80% of their missile facilities gone, as well as their solid rocket motor production capability. It will take years for Iran to rebuild any major surface combatants, as more than 20 naval production and fabrication facilities have been damaged or destroyed. And nearly 80% of Iran's nuclear industrial base was hit, further degrading their attempts to attain a nuclear weapon. Throughout Operation Epic Fury, our joint force struck at the heart of Iran's ability to project power and threaten the United States and the region. And in order to do this, it required the service and sacrifice of more than 50,000 American warfighters deployed across CENTCOM, EUCOM, and stateside. The Joint Force flew more than 10,000 missions, including 62 bomber missions, 18 of which flew round trip from the United States to deliver bombs on military targets. Each of these missions was more than 30 hours in duration, and we did that 18 times. No other military in the world can.
Yeah, I think they had a fucking like a merry-go-round, dude, with the aircraft carriers, where they were bombing 24/7. Yeah. 24/7 they were bombing with the aircraft carriers. But I think they couldn't. I don't think they were able to maintain that for much longer because what ended up happening was they couldn't maintain that because of fear of getting hit with cruise missiles or drones.
Yeah,
and do that. And
I've heard from many people too, Riyadh. I don't know if you've heard this. That the Ford was hit by Iran. It was not no dryer accident.
Yeah, no, that's what I heard as well. I heard that was a lie and that it was hit by our missile.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
like because that's kind of a crazy.
In the very beginning of the conflict, like the first or second week. That's when
Iranian media said that they hit them with 4 cruise missiles. That's bullshit. But at the same time, and this is what it is. Like the United States and Iran are both lying, right? So you got to kind of find something in the middle, because the U.S. said it was dryers that like caught on fire, and then the Iranians were saying we hit them with 4 cruise missiles. What I think is more than likely, and even when I spoke with some military heads, they think more than likely it was a drone. That's probably what caused it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because the Ford, the Tripoli, all of those vessels, those amphibious vessels, they have phenomenal anti-missile technology, I'll admit. So a drone is very plausible, even for the level of missiles that Iran has. They have a very good defense system. That I'll never lie about that. But
they probably swarmed them with drones. I think they probably swarmed them with drones.
Yeah, well, they had two things probably targeting the ship. It's missiles and the drones. Something got through, and obviously, the U.S. said it was a dryer incident, or maybe it was a dryer incident. Then Iran said, "Oh, let's just say that was a missile," but that's less likely. I do think it was hit.
Yeah,
and it was a big goal of theirs to hit it. Mm-hmm.
The other red flag is like they were trying to put it out for like a day and a half, bro.
Yeah.
What kind of fire? What do we tell? What did somebody get their tidy whities on fire? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like how you find a dryer fire? You know what I mean? For like 2 days, damn near.
I'll say this: Russian and Chinese technology has really helped Iran out in critical points of this war. You know, especially with this F-15 that was just hit, you got Russian and Chinese technology likely working in tandem to take down U.S. military aircraft. So very, very critical things that is going to help out China and Russia in the long run. You know, now they know that their shit works. Go ahead.
The logistical force that quietly serves behind them. I cannot thank Transcom and the Air Force Tanker and Mobility Force more. Combined with Army and Navy joint fires, we struck more than 13,000 targets. And along with our Gulf partners, we've thus far intercepted 1,700 ballistic missiles and one-way attack drones, defending our forces and our partners in the civilian population. And we remain ready to do so should the need arise. Along the way, we consume more than 6 million meals, and by my estimate, more than 950,000 gallons of coffee, 2 million energy drinks, and a lot of nicotine, but I am not saying that we have a problem. I've laid out the statistics, but it does not truly capture the nature of combat. This is gritty and unforgiving business. It's chaotic, it's hot, it's dark, it's unpredictable, and there's always unknowns. And our people proudly walked into those unknowns and continue forward. And through it all, the Joint Force has demonstrated the unwavering resolve that the nation demands of us. We are a mission-focused force, and our objectives always is to create the conditions for peace, and today we have, while be ready should that peace break, which we hope it is not. And we remain ready. Before I turn it back to the Secretary, I also want to quickly went in and over the weekend.
Do you want to see Caroline Leavitt's press conference?
Yeah. I know she got grilled. We can take a look at that. And by the way, I'm seeing consistent reports, some from the Wall Street Journal, that Middle East officials are warning the war is about to flare up again with even greater intensity. So that's not a secret to us. Yeah.
Well, and then we got the Pakistan thing here as well. Let me open this shit up, bro.
And have you seen this theory that people are saying this is the strategic W for the United States because now we'll be involved in the Strait of Hormuz? Are you seeing this silly theory floating around online? Like, oh, this is for the United States to grab a hold of oil assets. And obviously that's just, beyond silly. Of course I can take the time and debunk that, but the Trump supporters are really grabbing for straws, man.
Let me see here. We are, let's go. Yeah, we can go to Caroline. This press conference was crazy.
I didn't get to see it.
All right.
You have after hours, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, speaking of which, guys, well, you know what? Here, let's go here. Streamed 8 hours ago. We're not going to watch the full.
Launcher vehicles and long-range attack drones through more than 450 strikes.
Oh, yeah, chat. Also, do me a favor, guys. I'm going to get off of YouTube right now. Come on over to Kick, guys. I'm going to drop the Kick link for you guys. Get ready to switch over. Okay? Or if you want to stay on YouTube, watch my brother's channel, either or if you want to really help us both out, help both of us out and, jump in there. I'll give you guys the link right now. Come on over to Kick, guys. You guys know I hate YouTube. Or you can watch my brother's channel, Riyadh Report. So either or, if you guys really want to help us, open up a tab on both. Helps us a lot. So I'm going to end the YouTube stream here. We've been on for an hour. Okay, guys, giving you guys plenty of sauce on YouTube. Come on over, my ninjas. Oh, no, hold on. Here's the Kick link. Can we spam it, chat, on YouTube for me? All right, we're getting off YouTube. Later, guys. Come on over. We're switching over. We're getting off YouTube. Going right to Kick, kick.com/MyronGainsX, or go to youtube.com/Riyadh Report. Either or, jump in there. Okay.
On ballistic missiles and approximately 800 strikes on Iran's drone launching units and storage facilities. In total, more than 13,000 targets across Iran were struck. Again, this is in the matter of just 38 days. Meanwhile, the Iranian Navy was completely annihilated. The United States destroyed more than 150 naval vessels in total, including 16 entire classes of Iranian warships. Despite once being the largest undersea force in the Middle East, Iran now has 0 submarine vessels. 97% of Iran's once massive inventory of more than...
Go ahead, debunk.
That's not true. I've seen several reports in the last few days that they still have access to several of those vessels, which are critical for disrupting the Strait of Hormuz. That's not true.
And they got the mines, too. The thing is, bro, I was laughing at Hegseth. I was like, bro, you destroyed their Navy, but they still control the Strait of Hormuz, bro. Like, what are you talking about?
Dumbasses don't realize all it takes is the threat of a drone in the region.
Yeah,
that's something they have a multitude of to stop the ships from passing through. Guys, that's a 21-mile passageway, roughly, maybe even a little less. It's very narrow. So if Iran is threatening to deploy missiles and drones over the heads of these ships, they won't pass. And that's not even adding to the fact or coupling in the fact that they can actually maintain a presence in the water and then physically stop the ships if they want. But that's not even necessary. They can just threaten the strikes. They can hit these ships with drones. They can hit these ships with with missiles, and slow them down significantly or stop them overall, which is what they've done. So this whole, like, oh, we got rid of their Navy and the submarines, and that, first of all, they still have a lot of those. And secondly, even if you destroyed all of it top to bottom, it doesn't make a difference, okay? The biggest power piece that they have, or the threat that they can maintain and offer, is from the air. So it doesn't matter. They don't need the amphibious vessels to always pose a threat. They can still always have those drones on their side. It's so foolish how that goes over people's heads.
The thing other people forget also is, like, these aren't like Navy destroyers. Like, they have to, like, these freighter ships can't take no drone damage, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and people forget it's not even about it's not even about destroying the freighters. It's the fact that it's not safe, and the insurance companies are not going to insure the vessels. Exactly. That's the issue.
It's a logistics issue.
No captain is going to sail. Yeah, no captain is going to sail with the risk of getting hit by a drone. Fuck that. Like, no, bro, they're good.
Yep.
They're just going to sit there. These are not military vessels.
And then the countries that are waiting for those, shipments will pay the fee to get those ships across safely. And that's what Iran's been doing, and that's what they're going to continue to do. And now I'll just say this really quick. And now you see people on X saying, oh, well, that's beneficial for the United States because if we can work with Iran to make some money off of the Strait of Hormuz, that's a passageway responsible for 20% of the world's oil that we now have some sort of hand in or control or leverage in. So let me get this straight. Instead of just doing diplomacy with Iran, we kill all their top leaders, kill thousands of innocent civilians, bomb a school, serve Israel's interest by destroying the JCPOA in 2018, killing Qasem Soleimani, killing Hassan Nasrallah, saying that they have to stop the enrichment, they have to slow down the enrichment, which was what was actually conceded to in the previous deal, so we can gain some leverage in the Strait of Hormuz. Don't you think it would just be a lot more logical if we wanted some sort of hand in the Strait of Hormuz to actually approach Iran diplomatically and say, hey, we'll lift some sanctions, but we have to be involved in that 20-mile passageway that they were not previously making money off of to this degree? You do know before the war, they weren't making nearly as much money off that strait as they are now. So why wouldn't we have just stepped in from a diplomatic perspective and try to work something out with them? And in turn, we offer them some sort of sanctions relief, or we say, hey, you slow down with the nuclear enrichment and we can work together in this strait. You're all idiots. Like, I see people on X saying this. I'm not going to drop names. I don't want to start problems, but there's people running around with this theory that, like, oh, now the United States has control of the oil passageway. Hey, dumbass, we could have done that years ago. And we even could have done that during this administration without having to destroy Iran, destroy Tehran, destroy their civilian infrastructure, bomb the University of Science and Technology, hit their gas pipeline, get Israel heavily involved, which has now warranted Lebanon to be subject to attack. What kind of senseless, brainless thinking? But these are people that don't understand. And people telling themselves when they give theories like this any sort of weight, you don't understand how the world works. You're all retards. So it's funny to me that I even have to, like, make that statement and debunk that. Like, you would think it's more than obvious that that's not the reason why the United States is there. And it's not that beneficial for us even to have control of that strait. And we won't, because Iran will make sure, so long as we're not opening up Lebanon, that they won't give us any sort of concession there. But it's also just like, hey, why do we go through all of those systematic steps throughout the last 5 or 6 years so we can have a little bit of control of 1/5 of the world's oil? Dumbass. So stupid.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely nuts, dude.
So stupid.
It's absolutely fucking nuts.
5,000 naval mines has also been targeted and destroyed.
That's not, they did not destroy.
That's just lie after lie. Tell her she's lying.
No, they cannot destroy. Okay, if they destroyed the mines, why are ships not crossing?
Stupid.
And for those of you that don't know, the Iranians have like a weapon that basically, I guess you could call it a weapon, that they basically lay these mines down on the sea floor. Because a lot of people don't know, the Strait of Hormuz is actually fairly shallow, chat. So, especially at its narrowest point. So they just lined the entire thing with mines, and that in itself is risky enough where freighter ships don't want to sail. Because again, these guys have no risk tolerance, zero risk tolerance. It's all about money. So for them, they're like, bro, I'm not sailing and getting hit with a drone. I'm good.
Yep.
Right? Or have some Iranian niggas board my boat. Nah, man, we good. Like,
Yeah.
they saw that Houthi trailer. They're like, no, thank you. You saw that Houthi trailer where they clip on the boat?
Yep.
Bro.
Yep. These guys
Niggas
are
said no.
multi-skilled, multi-talented, multifunctional military, and they have to be, because they have to maintain escalation dominance. They have to be able to take it to the next step always. They can't let the United States do that. And we can control the air, we can bomb a bunch of infrastructure, but we don't actually get to escalate the topic or escalate the issue until we bomb the energy infrastructure. Then we'll actually make a big dent. But if we do that, then the Gulf states are all cooked. They're all cooked, especially Saudi Arabia. And not only is the energy infrastructure cooked, but you better bet that Iran also has their missiles aimed at the pipelines that are transporting oil through the Middle East as a way of relieving pressure from the Strait of Hormuz blockade. So they're going to get rid of the way the oil is being transported from these Gulf countries through the pipelines in Saudi Arabia and the UAE, and they're also going to hit their energy infrastructure. And that's why Trump never actually did the whole power grid knockdown. He knows it's not feasible. If we do that, then the entire Middle East will go through a blackout, a water drought. I mean, it'll actually be, for all intents and purposes, like a World War III type of situation. People say I'm warmongering, fear-mongering. Okay, whatever. You're just brain dead. You don't understand the topic, so.
Iran's air forces are functionally and operationally irrelevant at this point, after the United States maintained total air dominance over their country for weeks on end. To underscore the significance of this, before Operation Epic Fury, the Iranian Air Force would fly between 30 to 100 flights per day. Today, that number is 0. Iran's ability to fund and support its terrorist proxies has been greatly reduced. At this point, Iran can no longer distribute weapons to its proxies in the region. And most importantly, Iran will not be able to acquire nuclear weapons. Prior to the start of
Bro, they never had the nuclear weapons, bro. Oh, man.
this
shit is so painful, bro.
successful operation,
This is just going to be propaganda the whole time. Let's go to the questions.
The president
report of the ceasefire should take his word very completely unacceptable. And again, this is people, and I'm bill that we're moving.
And guys, just so you know, when she did this press conference this morning, they were bombing Lebanon bad. Which, yo, can you pull up a video on Lebanon? We got to show them the damage in Beirut, bro. That's crazy. And then also, we could cover the Pakistan thing, too.
Into the next phase of this, which is a negotiating period, to put some fine points on this and to hopefully broker an agreement that can achieve.
Yeah, this is crazy.
And this was Beirut this morning, I believe. Southern Lebanon, one of the two. But I mean,
yeah, and this is the biggest bombing campaign. Is this the biggest bombing campaign Israel's ever done?
In one day, yeah. In one day, 100+ strikes just this morning.
Oh, yeah, bro. And it was in an hour, Riyadh. They did it in a fucking hour.
As she was talking, this is what was happening. Look at that. Clouds of smoke everywhere.
Absolutely nuts.
Crazy stuff.
Long-term peace in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And as that was going on in Lebanon, she was answering questions.
And second, what is the president's message to American seniors who have a much higher voter participation rate and they're likely to be a key swing vote in the midterm elections?
Well, the president loves our seniors across the country. And as you know, the president signed the one.
So much that he cut fucking Medicaid to do this war, bro. He loves these old niggas that much that he cut was it Medicare, Medicaid? He cut one of these fucking
something that had to do with federal health care.
Yeah, something to do with like,
and it was tied in with the $200 billion that was approved. So
yeah, that nigga said, "Yo, all you old niggas are dying, bro. Get out of here."
Yeah.
Undertaker Bell. Just, we got to fight this war, bro.
Big beautiful bill, the
fuck your diabetes, bro.
Working Families Tax Cut last year, which greatly reduced taxes on Social Security.
Could you imagine that? Fuck your diabetes, nigga. Like, what the hell?
Yo, bro, you're hooked up to like a life machine, or you're hooked up to like some dialysis machine, and fucking Trump is just at the White House saying, "Well, we need the money. We got to get the money." I don't know what to tell you. We got to get the money. And they fucking unhook you and say, hey, sorry, there's no more money to fund this shit. You're going to have to die now so Israel can actually have sovereignty in the Middle East. That's that's not even a joke. Like, that's actually the reality of the situation.
Yeah, it's that crazy.
So sad.
But bro really did pull. I forget exactly where he pulled it from. I don't know if someone can fact check it for us real quick. But I'm almost certain he pulled it from some social safety net for medical care.
For our seniors, in fact.
Which you already know, the progressives are going to lose their mind.
Yep.
On that one. Because the thing is, I've noticed with progressives, like all the top progressives, they're all socialists, bro. They're proud socialists. They literally say, I'm a progressive socialist. That's what they label themselves when people ask them.
Thanks to the Working Families Tax
point,
Cut,
they've kind of
nearly
just taken it
90% of seniors will no longer pay tax on their Social Security. That's a huge win for our seniors and also for our middle class and working families across the country with the no tax on tips provision and the no tax on overtime. Next week is tax week. You'll hear a lot from the president about how his policies have benefited the American people, and I'm proud to report that the president will be traveling next week to the great states of Nevada and Arizona to tout this historic accomplishment over the course of the next week. Thank you for being here, Shane. Gabe.
Thank you, Caroline. Iranian state media is saying that Iran has now closed off the Strait of Hormuz today.
Yeah, they closed it again.
Imagine boasting and bragging how Donald Trump is this big victor and we've got control of the situation. And then the first question you get from a journalist inside of the White House is, hey, actually, the Strait of Hormuz is closed. Stupid ass. Fucking idiot.
Bro. And it's kind of funny because they were bombing Lebanon. When she was doing this press conference, they were bombing Lebanon, and Tehran was getting bombed too.
Yes. Yeah, allegedly, though, there was conflicting reports that it was Gulf countries responsible for that. Yeah. And so that was funny to see the United States didn't want to take responsibility. You know, you never know when Israel's involved, right? Who actually is responsible. But it seems like the Gulf countries took responsibility if all the reports were actually verified.
I think it was UAE, because UAE really has, like, bro, the UAE like closed the embassy. They deported all these Iranian people. Like, they're revoked everything. So like Iranians and UAE are like, you know, public enemy number one. Because to be fair, the UAE got hit the most. Like, didn't the UAE get
over 2,000 times? Over 2,000. I see 1,500. I see 2,000 times. They hit them. They focused on them. Because the UAE is a part of the biggest security axis aligned with that of Israel. More than anybody in the Middle East. Not even Saudi Arabia is that deep inside of, you know, the Israeli trench. So the UAE was public enemy number one. And easily enough, they're super close. You know, so for...
You know, the UAE, if I'm not mistaken, Riyadh, they're the only country that recognizes Israel.
Yes, they're the only country that... Yeah, exactly. Yeah, from the Abraham
Bahrain,
Accords.
None of these countries recognize Israel's sovereignty.
Yeah. But at least with the other countries, they've kind of vaguely normalized relations, right? Like, of course, Saudi Arabia was not a part of the Abraham Accords or anything like that. And maybe that was actually going to come into reality. And then October 7th happened. We always speak about that. But what I do know is they have the closest alliance with Israel. Go ahead.
I was going to say the reason why UAE probably got hit hard is because there's probably a bunch of clandestine outposts in UAE.
1,000,000%.
Don't forget, guys. Don't forget that the Israelis like assassinated a fucking Palestinian Hamas guy in the UAE like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and this was before obviously they formalized everything. But I think since like 2022, 2023, the UAE joined the Abraham Accords, and it's the only Gulf country that recognizes Israel's sovereignty. So it would make sense that since they recognize Israel's sovereignty, there's probably, you know, off-site Mossad bases, off-site Shin Bet, off-site U.S. bases, all that shit.
Yeah.
So
and then all the interest they serve for Israel is likely happening in North Africa as well. You know, with Sudan, with Libya, I believe that Israel's got their hands all up in that as well. But it's easy to just hide behind the UAE because the UAE is seen publicly as the main proxy to these militia groups in North Africa as well. But I'm sure Israel's got a hand in that.
Mm-hmm.
In response to Israeli attacks on Lebanon. What's the White House response to that? And you just listed many military successes. I understand that. But strategically, how is the administration arguing that Iran does not have more economic leverage than it did before the start of the war?
Sure. Well, with respect to the first reporting out of Iranian state media, the president was made aware of those reports before I came to the podium. That is completely unacceptable. And again, this is a case of what they're saying publicly is different privately. We have seen an uptick of traffic in the Strait today, and I will reiterate.
If I'm not mistaken, only 2 ships went through.
Yeah. Before they blockaded again. I didn't even know that. I thought none went.
Yeah. Chat, can someone double check that? I'm almost certain that
The president's expectation and demand that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened immediately, quickly, and safely. That is his expectation, and it has been relayed to him privately that is what's taking place, and these reports publicly are false.
Caroline, the president yesterday threatened that a whole civilization would die if a ceasefire deal wasn't reached, understanding that Iranian leaders have previously said death to America. But why is it appropriate for the president of the United States to use that kind of language when talking about civilian targets? And was the president mocking Islam by signing off his True Social post over the weekend, praise be to Allah? Wouldn't that antagonize Muslim allies across the world?
Well, I understand the questions about the president's rhetoric, but what the president cares most about is results. And in fact, his very tough rhetoric and his tough negotiating style is what has led to the result that you are all witnessing today. Iran publicly acknowledging last night that they have agreed or that they wanted this ceasefire with the United States because they no longer could tolerate being bombed by our very powerful and lethal military, and that they have committed to the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, which the president will hold them accountable for, and it's something the administration is closely monitoring in real time.
So,
Danny.
Should the world not take his word seriously?
The world should take his word very seriously in understanding that the president is always most interested in results.
That's the thing, though.
And it was
I understand Brinksmanship and how Trump exercises that power, and it's worked in his favor at times, but he's abused it to the point where it's not valuable anymore. You know, hey, hello, the boy who cried wolf. You know, when you lie that many times, or you tell people things that aren't true that many times to make it seem like you're winning, you lose that ability to actually exercise Brinksmanship. So, yeah, maybe in the beginning it had some effect, but at this point, it actually just blows back in the United States' face every single time.
And Brinksmanship is contingent upon speed, right?
Exactly.
Like you can't exercise Brinksmanship with an enemy that's ready to go years. You just can't do that, you know?
And then say 6 days, 10 days, 48 hours, you know, hollow threats.
Only works when your opponent is under a bigger time constraint than you. But if your people got all day like the Iranians do, Brinksmanship is not the way. And Trump is kind of learning this the hard way. With the power plant bullshit, whatever. Like
the Iranians who backed down, not President Trump. He said that they would face very grave consequences, as you just laid out, by the 8 p.m. deadline if they did not agree to reopening the Strait of Hormuz. And what did they do last night? They agreed to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Danny.
Thanks, Caroline.
Which is now closed because Lebanon's being hit.
This peace
Nice
deal.
job.
As you know, there have been increased Israeli strikes on Lebanon today with dozens of casualties there.
Sure. Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. That has been relayed to all parties involved in the ceasefire. As you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu put out a statement last night in support.
Go ahead.
Not true. Foreign Minister of Affairs Abbas Araghchi said several times today from verified news outlets that Lebanon must be conceded upon for there to actually be a ceasefire. That's why they blocked the Strait this morning, because Lebanon is being hit. Common sense.
Yep.
Common sense. She's lying.
Yep. And then also, Tehran was getting. We think it's the Gulf that probably hit them, right? We still haven't
Allegedly, it was Saudi and the UAE. That's what I'm seeing, but it's fog of war, so who knows? Who really knows?
Of the ceasefire. In support of the United States' efforts, and he's also assured the president they'll continue to be a helpful partner throughout the course of the next 2 weeks.
Is there any thought, though, that the president might like to see Lebanon included at a future date, given that it seems to be causing or potentially undermining the Iran ceasefire?
Again, this will continue to be discussed, I am sure, between the president and Prime Minister Netanyahu, the United States and Israel, and all of the parties involved, but at this point in time, they're not included in the ceasefire deal. Jeff.
Thank you. Caroline, will the U.S. take part in talks with Iran in Islamabad on Friday?
I can announce that the president is dispatching his negotiating team, led by the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Witkoff, and Mr. Kushner to Islamabad for talks this weekend. The first round of those talks will take place on Saturday morning local time, and we look forward to those in-person meetings.
What role does the president see for the U.S. in monitoring or helping with the Strait of Hormuz going forward?
I think the president commented on that this morning. We're going to continue.
I can guarantee you, out of everybody in the administration, J.D. Vance is most upset that Lebanon is being hit right now, because Israel is foiling and tarnishing any ability he has to actually grab towards peace. Because obviously Iran is not going to want to talk to him. It doesn't matter if it's J.D. Vance, if it's somebody new, if it's Witkoff, if it's Kushner.
Araghchi actually wants to talk to him more than Witkoff and Kushner, but that's not really saying the Kushner and Witkoff are retards.
Yeah, yeah, and so even if he has the power to look like the good guy or the guy who's going to operate in good faith, it seems like Vance is really going to have to struggle with gripping the idea that he's got to reprimand Israel. You know, Washington has really released no condemnation yet. You know, just a few hours ago, Donald Trump shitted on NATO. It's like, hey, hello. Well, what does NATO have to do with anything? Israel is destroying the ceasefire deal that was just about to relieve the global oil markets. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yo, it's kind of funny because like everybody takes shots at NATO. Like you notice that?
Yeah, NATO's like a punching bag.
It's like a punching bag for these niggas, bro. Like, because it's one thing when the president cooks them, but like everybody else is like, yeah, they're useless. Yeah. Oh, you want to join the war when we already won? Oh, you guys got shitty aircraft carriers. Like it's all these little fucking digs, bro. You know?
Yeah. And it's really just to tell, NATO is indirectly telling the world the United States is controlled by Israel. That's why they're so mad, because they refuse to join this war, because they know this is not the United States war. If this was truly a war that was important for the United States and that benefited the United States, well, then NATO may have actually considered joining. But they know that it's not. They know that it's Israel's war all day long. And so it's going to be funny to see J.D. Vance have to balance the idea of controlling Israel, but simultaneously being able to meet Iran's needs. And Benjamin Netanyahu, his main goal is to undermine. He said that today. It's funny, Times of Israel reported today that in the 10-point plan, I swear you can go read this, one of the asks from Iran was Lebanon. That was from an Israeli source, that the 10-point plan entailed Lebanon. And then Benjamin Netanyahu said, we're not going to stop striking Hezbollah. So they know the only last contingent piece of framework in order to relieve or actually honor the ceasefire is Lebanon. You think they're going to stop striking Lebanon? No, now Hezbollah is public enemy number one. Don't believe me? Why did they hit them 100 times in one day? Because they want to destroy this deal. You know, so I want to see how J.D. Vance is going to be able to juggle that. That's going to be very hard for him, if he even goes, because I don't know what I'm reading here, but it seems like he may or may not even show up. But that's going to be tough for him.
One of my guys was keeping the KIA list up. Last time I checked, bro, we got almost, he said something like almost 400 to 500 dead IDF soldiers, man.
Oh, yeah. In northern Israel, correct?
Yes. Yeah. The guys that are doing the foot, doing the ground invasion. That's why there was there.
Well, here's the thing. When you fight Hezbollah, there's always guaranteed a high IDF death count because they've always whooped their ass. You know, and there's a ground element in the Lebanon invasion as well, but they're not going to get far with that, which is why they're bombing them to hell. So I believe that. I think that number will probably come into fruition if Israel's going to be honest about it, but certainly going to be an interesting turn of events. Did she say Saturday morning? Caroline?
It's
okay. You don't got to play it back.
I think the president commented on that this morning.
I'll confirm it. Go ahead and play it.
Continue to monitor it very, very closely. We will be helpful in any way that we can, but we fully expect Iran to do this, and the president has made that quite clear as well. It's, again, as his statement said last night, this ceasefire is subject to the safe reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Again, this was just determined last night. We understand things take time, but that's the president's expectation, and he will hold everyone to it. Sure, in the green blazer.
Thank you, Carol.
Sure, and then in front of you. But Andrew, you can go ahead.
All right.
You're not wearing a green blazer.
I am actually wearing a green blazer.
It's a little brown to me, but go ahead.
Fair enough. Regarding the president's rhetoric, when the U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003, George W. Bush said in a message to the Iraqi people that the military campaign was directed, quote, against the lawless men who rule your country and not against you. Yesterday, the president threatened to destroy Iran's civilization, the entire civilization. Not the Iranian government, but the Iranian civilization, the Iranian people. The U.S. has been a moral leader for most of its history by fighting wars against other governments, not against civilizations. How can the president claim that America can ever have the moral high ground if he's threatening to destroy civilizations and not casting wars as fights against other governments?
Andrew, I think you should take a look at the actions of this president over the course of the past 6 weeks and the actions.
And they all say, have you heard Caroline Leavitt call them the fake news?
Which outlet or all of them?
Yeah, she calls it fake news too, which is hilarious.
Yeah, well, she's got to adopt this talking point. What that journalist just actually asked her is something we've been saying. Bro might be watching the show, Because the biggest thing that we always boasted about, or really we were worried about, was that the United States will lose their moral high ground, especially with Ukraine and Russia. That's something we've always strategically depended upon, and now Trump is saying we're going to...
We did, and I would argue Putin has a better argument than we do.
Well, much better. Our reasoning for entering this war is way worse. And so, it's talk about losing the moral high ground. We've lost all ability to even exercise logic at this point. And then Donald Trump does not help this administration and all of the responding members of media by taking the Truth Social and say, we're going to bomb a whole civilization. And, it doesn't do anything except make it more difficult for Pete Hegseth and Caroline Leavitt to answer these questions. And I mean, that's, I said that, like, he's calling for genocide, in the loosest terms possible. And I don't mean to be a bleeding heart liberal, right? But that you can't say those things when you're the leader of the world. It's just so you cannot say those things. And Trump abuses his power. This is something I think he'll be investigated about as well come November if he's ever actually indicted and impeached, which is likely. I think they're going to try to get him for manipulating stock prices and markets too, but like having people within his administration or having people within his circle that are getting the go-ahead too. So because he makes it more than obvious with his Truth Social posts. I've seen threads on X about how it's quite obvious he's doing that. So they're going to come from him. They're going to come for him from that angle as well, because his rambunctious posts are almost telling to me that like there's some inner circle going on of making or exploiting some sort of financial gain out of it.
Absolutely.
Of our brave men and women in our United States military who have taken out.
We can also look at the Pakistan thing next too. For those of you that don't know, guys, there's who knows if it's still going to go. We can even make it to Friday. Last I heard, J.D. Vance, Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner are going to Pakistan to meet with Abbas Araghchi, Syed Araghchi, basically the foreign minister. They're going to meet with him in Pakistan, because Pakistan was like the main intermediary. China was also involved.
Yep.
China was also heavily involved. They were real big in getting the Iranians to like accept something now. Yep. So lots of shit going on, man. Because dude, the world was not going to be able to keep holding on with 120 barrels, bro. Like $120.
And China gets a lot of oil from the Gulf countries too. If I'm not mistaken, like 50% or 45%. And then the other 20%, give or take, comes from the Gulf countries. From Iran itself, which they still have been receiving through a pipeline. So it's in China's benefit to end this war as well. But they also know that if this war continues, energy targets are next. And then they know that regional conflict cannot be controlled. That's why China jumped on it when Trump gave this deadline. Pakistan and China and all these other countries, Turkey being involved as well, kind of worked together to make some sort of peace deal come to fruition. But I think Israel's going to work really hard to undermine that. They're doing it right now. They're going to work very hard to undermine that. Hopefully everybody can stay mature and come to some sort of terms on Saturday and just bear. I know that's a little bit crazy for me to say, but I want all parties to bear the Israeli strikes until we can come to an agreement in writing that's official and officially stated on Saturday. Then, and only then, will we really have to bind Israel to not striking southern Lebanon. So Saturday can't come fast enough, but I really hope we can make it there, because this is the only chance for an off-road of diplomacy. If this doesn't work, which likely won't, but if this doesn't work, well, then the war is going to resume, and it won't end until Iran legitimately falls. And they were trying to disarm. They've been trying to disarm Hezbollah for so long, bro. It's just not going to happen. The Lebanese military is so cooked. Like, the people don't even support the Lebanese army, dude. For those of you guys that don't know, Hezbollah is not really like a official state actor. Yeah, they're a paramilitary organization that kind of, they have representation in the government, but like they're not really the government. Yeah. Right. So they're kind of their own thing, and they've been trying to disarm them. The West has been trying to disarm them for a very long time, and they refuse to give up their arms. And I don't blame them, because it's like Israel's going to just come in and take over southern Lebanon. Like, don't forget, Israel like occupied southern Lebanon for a bit, and that's what led to the war in 1982. And they pushed them back, and it was Hezbollah that did that shit. It wasn't the Lebanese army. It was Hezbollah is that the first time an Arab military like pushed the Israelis back? No, I mean, you have 70s, right? You have 73 in the Yom Kippur War, but I suppose like maybe a paramilitary organization, because actually held the land though. I mean, as like seize the land back for good. Yeah.
Yes, I think they're the only ones that like whooped the Israelis asses and took occupied land back. I think they're the only ones.
So you have all of course current day Israel. What was Palestine? The Golan Heights were seized. Yeah, so
Syrians ain't
Southern,
about
you're
that.
completely right. Yeah, in terms of a paramilitary or an official governing body taking land back and then keeping them out. And by the way,
And even
Hezbollah,
Egypt didn't even get the Sinai Peninsula back. That came back as a treaty. They didn't win.
Yeah.
They got it back. They lost. They lost the war, the Yom Kippur War, and then the Camp David Accords was basically like a gift, land for peace, and they gave Egypt back the Sinai Peninsula.
yeah, they diplomatically got it back with Western involvement and everything like that. But in regards to Hezbollah, they are, just so people know, in Lebanon, they're the pride and joy. Like, people parade the streets to celebrate them because regardless of religious sectarianism or whatever it is, I know there's a lot of Christians, there's a lot of Maronite Christians in Lebanon. Hezbollah is the only thing that keeps Lebanon kind of safe or at bay from Israeli aggression. And, so they all kind of come to terms on that, believe it or not. I know it's this crazy Islamic terrorist group that everybody knows about, but the population actually is pretty favorable in regards to Hezbollah or has their favor in mind. So
they like Hassan Nasrallah more than everybody else.
They did. They absolutely did. And remember,
because why they like them is because like these guys support Gaza, Palestinians.
They do. Yeah. And every single person in Lebanon, no, you're good. Every single person in Lebanon, Christian, Muslim, Druze, whatever you have, they all, maybe not the Druze so much, but Christians and Muslims as a whole heavily support Hezbollah if it means hating Israel. Like, this is the same situation where we always reference there's a greater evil that everybody in the Middle East is able to recognize. Lebanese people hate Israel just as much as Palestinians. Just so you guys know. Even in Persia, it's kind of different, right? In Iran, it's different because the secular ones don't hate Israel as much because they know Israel's kind of the only chance to change the regime, which is so self-telling, right? Like, Israel obviously wants regime change. That's the biggest deal. But for the secular people in Lebanon, and Lebanon has a lot of secularists, a lot of non-religious Islamic people, Muslims, Shia Muslims, Christians, Maronites, Catholics, Orthodox, they all hate Israel, right? That's like the most consistent thing across the board. Across the entire spectrum of religion, the one consistency you will find is they hate Israel. That's prevalent across the whole Sham or Levant region. Lebanon, Palestine, they all hate them. So that's one thing they have in common that's a little bit different than the Persian people or the Iranians.
And they're the only ones really that have gotten like an actual ground fight with the Israelis.
Yeah,
they're like the only
ass.
ones. And they whooped their asses a couple. Yeah, they whooped their asses in the 1982. They whooped their asses in 2006.
Yep.
And then they're also getting. They just kill each other. Like, but they're by far the most competent fighting force in the Axis.
They offer an even fight. At minimum, they always offer an equal or opposite force. Yep, on the ground, 100%.
On the ground,
and even the rockets in northern Israel, that had people not wanting to go back home 2 weeks ago. The government was saying you're good, and people didn't want to go back home because of the threats from Hezbollah in the north. So, they do offer good deterrence, and they always have that ground element that we saw a little bit in 2024 as well. We saw a lot of IDF casualties. So they're a problem for Israel, no doubt. But they've stopped. They said we're done so long as you're done. But, of course, Israel is going to exacerbate everything.
Kept bombing them. After that 2024 ceasefire, kept fucking bombing.
Actually taken out the military of a rogue Islamic regime that has chanted death to America for 47 years. That has killed
we just spent like
and
so
maimed
long
thousands of
debunking
Americans.
it effectively.
It's like these niggas got like a script, bro.
Yeah.
They got a fucking script. That shit is crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's like bro, every time they like you're low IQ, bro. You really think like when they're saying death to America, death to Israel, they're talking about like me and you, bro? No, you dumbass. What the fuck?
Real-time vindication. I always say the foundation for falling for this propaganda is believing the fact that Islamic terrorism is the root of all the issues in the Middle East rather than Israeli terrorism. So long as she can push that and people buy it, then they'll keep getting away with murder.
Mm-hmm.
Literally and figuratively.
American soldiers over the course of the last 5 decades. The president absolutely has the moral high ground over the Iranian terrorist regime, and for you to even suggest otherwise is frankly insulting.
With all due respect, Caroline,
Go ahead.
with all due respect,
Go ahead.
there is...
Just given what we've seen in Lebanon today and the increased attacks from Israel, I mean, is there any concern that Netanyahu is trying to kill the ceasefire?
The president spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu last night. In that private conversation, Prime Minister Netanyahu relayed exactly what he said to the world publicly, that he supports the president and Israel remains a key ally and partner to the United States. They've been a tremendous partner over the course of the past 6 weeks, and we thank them for their heroic efforts as well. The president had that conversation last night, and that was relayed to the world publicly as well. Reagan, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. I have a question for you on Iran, and then I have a question on the Dignity Act as well. On Iran, it's been reported that the ceasefire was struck after the involvement of two unlikely factors, J.D. Vance and China. What role did those parties play in striking a deal?
Well, Vice President Vance has played a very significant and a key role in this since the very beginning. Of course, he's the president's right-hand man. He is the vice president of the United States. He's been involved in all of these discussions.
Hey, so
and
to
as I
answer
just
your
announced,
question
he'll
earlier,
be leading
Myron,
this
really
new...
quick. Sorry, I know you had asked how many ships had really passed through the Strait of Hormuz. What I'm seeing here, because I was looking into it, no oil tankers have passed through the Strait of Hormuz since yesterday's ceasefire, and the 4 ships that have passed are all dry cargo carriers. Data from Shipping Intelligence. So that's New York Times.
So 4
that don't have any oil.
Yeah.
So none. Effectively none, really.
Effectively none, actually, yeah, when it comes to energy.
Because Brent crude is still at 96. It's still hovering right below 100.
Just so the idiots, oh, bro, crude is tumbling. Are you guys stupid?
It's not.
Bro, $90 and $80 is still a crisis. Do you guys not get that?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's at 96. It's barely hovering below 100, and it's going to pop right back up to 100 if these strikes continue. The only reason that it's down is because diplomatically there seems to be process, but on the ground physically, there's none. There's none. Tehran was hit today. Lebanon's being hit. Israel still had sirens going off in the north earlier today, as well as in other provinces, if I'm not mistaken. So there's actually no peace yet. It's all just words on a screen. And Saturday will really be the final nail in the coffin as to whether those peace talks will materialize or not, or the ceasefire.
Friday's a big day if we make it there.
Phase of negotiations in Islamabad later this week. With respect to China, there were conversations that took place between top levels of our government and China's government. The president has great respect for President Xi and a great working relationship with him and with that country, and he looks forward to visiting China in just a few weeks.
And on the Dignity Act, it's getting a fresh push through Congress. It would give some illegal immigrants in the country a path to citizenship. What's the White House's position on this legislation, and would the president sign it if it made it to his desk?
Honestly, Reagan, I haven't spoken to the president about the legislation, but I will have that conversation, and we'll get you our formal position on it as soon as we can. You're welcome. Go ahead.
The president suggested in an interview this morning that he would support a joint U.S.-Iranian venture to charge tolls for ships going through the Strait. Does the president believe that the U.S. should earn revenue from the Strait of Hormuz going forward?
It's an idea the president has floated, as you know, and it's something that will continue to be discussed over the course of the next 2 weeks. But the immediate priority of the president is the reopening of the Strait without any limitations, whether in the form of tolls or otherwise.
You know, on the highly enriched
Meanwhile, no fucking vessels with oil go through.
uranium, has Iran given the administration any indication that it would simply turn over the enriched uranium, or is this...
That's what Trump was trying to say, that they're going to turn over the uranium. They would need to actually hold up their end of the bargains, bro. Like, look, if I was Iran, I wouldn't give them shit until I get, like, sanction relief, no snapbacks, none of that shit.
It's a chronological set of events. For Iran to actually concede to that and give that up, there's going to have to be a promise and a guarantee in some sort of extreme way that we will not attack them again. And I think there's going to have to be concession on the missiles. Benjamin Netanyahu is obsessed with the missiles program. He finds that to be the biggest threat.
That's
you
the
know,
real
after
fear. That's the real fear.
Absolutely. After the 12-day war in June and how badly Iran damaged Israeli infrastructure with just 12 days to kind of display their ability to do so, and they weren't even letting all the missiles off that they have let off now, Benjamin Netanyahu constantly voiced in his 7 visits, probably, several of them being in Mar-a-Lago and Washington, during the presidency of Donald Trump, that the missiles program is a huge threat. The nuclear issue, of course, that's always been a talking point, but the ballistic missiles thing is new, and that's also important. So I do believe in the 15-point plan, or whatever concession is made for the U.S. side. A stipulation we're going to ask to be honored is shortening the distance for these missiles to go as far as the eye can really see, which is unrealistic, or nullifying them overall. And that's definitely not something Iran is going to concede to. I've said this before. That's like cutting their legs off from under them. They are not going to give that up. No doubt about it. They'll give up the Strait. They'll give up the Strait if there's actual concession on everything else. Like, maybe even they'll work from a nuclear standpoint. They did it in 2016. But the missiles, I don't know about that. I don't think there's going to be any wiggle room on the missiles program.
The missiles are the reason why they strategically won the conflict.
They exist right now. They exist. Everything the United States is going to ask Iran to give up are the precise reasons as to why they've been able to withstand a 40-day war.
Yep.
So,
and withstand two nuclear-armed superpowers coming at them.
Yep.
With the axis of resistance, the Strait of Hormuz, their ballistic missile program, their drone program. Like, they got a shitty Air Force and a shitty Navy. That's why I was laughing when people say, well, we sucked our Navy. Bro, you guys are sinking ships from like the 50s. You know what I mean? Like, what's going
planes
on?
Planes from the 70s.
Yeah,
Big bragging
like
right. Hey, could you imagine that when this war started on the 28th of February and you and I were live talking about it and breaking it down, this would hit a 40-day mark or 37-day mark technically before Donald Trump threatened to blow up their power plants? So let me get this straight. We've been at war for a month and we still need to utilize the threat of energy infrastructure, a war crime under international law, in order to actually effectuate some sort of change. We are losing. There's no better way to show that we're strategically losing. We have to leverage something like that against them, which is going to kill thousands of people, starve thousands of people. There will be famine in days, and then the Gulf will be hit in retaliation. That's what we're moving towards. I mean, because it's either that or it's a ground invasion, which maybe was actually attempted and failed, or it's a nuclear weapon. Those are the only real three options that the United States has. Oh, but we'll bomb them. We'll hit Isfahan. We'll hit Fordow. We've done that. We've done that. It hasn't worked. We've used every single trick up our sleeve.
Even if they hit him with a nuke, bro, it wouldn't do shit. To the
nuclear enrichment.
Yeah, if they bombed them with a nuclear bomb, they would still launch missiles, bro. Those missiles are never gonna stop.
Yeah.
Like right now, I don't even think Araghchi can stop them. As someone put in the chat, they're hitting Israel now.
Yeah. Well, look, it's like we said, it's mosaic defense, so it takes time. This is what's reported. I don't know how true it is, but these independent military factions that are spread out throughout the country that are operated by independent leadership, all autonomous of central command, don't get the word right away that there's a ceasefire. But I think that they're just not going to stop striking until Israel stops in Lebanon. Because people think, remember, Hezbollah is Iran. Iran is Hezbollah. Hezbollah is Iran. If Israel is attacking southern Lebanon, not only are they displacing millions of people, by the way, a lot of them are Shia, especially in the south. More Sunnis are in the north of Lebanon, if my memory serves me correctly. And so not only are they killing a ton of Shia that could be Persian or pro-Iranian, so that's actually Iranian people, or those are Iran's people, more to say, but also Hezbollah is under threat. So, of course, Iran is going to continue to fight. Southern Lebanon is a piece of Iran. And that piece of Iran is willing to deal with Israel diplomatically, as Hezbollah has done several times in the past, but Israel always undermines it. They just don't want them there, So that's an important thing to note as well.
So I'll watch this a little bit longer because I think we're going to go do after hours soon.
An expectation the president has that he would have to send in ground troops in order to do that.
This is on the top of the priority list for the president and his negotiating team as they head into this next round of discussions. And as I said in my opener, that is a red line that the president is not going to back away from, and he's committed to ensuring that takes place. We hope it will be through diplomacy.
But have they given any indication that they would turn it over?
They have.
They have.
Yes. Trevor.
The latest news out of Iran is that the air defenses have been activated in several cities, including Isfahan, and that explosions have been heard in Isfahan. Who is bombing it?
I'll read super chats in a moment, guys.
Those reports just...
She has no idea.
As of a few minutes ago?
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously I'll have to go back and check with the national security team. I'm standing out here with all of you, but I will do that and we will get you an answer, okay?
And just on the civilization question that we've been talking about.
And I would just add to that point, again, I haven't seen these reports. I'm not verifying them. Not that I don't trust you, Trevor, but I want to go back and check with the experts here at the White House. I would just say, and I would echo what the vice president said this morning, this is a fragile truce. Ceasefires are fragile by nature. We've seen this with respect to the 12-day war with Iran and Israel last year. It takes time sometimes for these ceasefires to be fully effectuated. And one of the results of Operation Epic Fury was we completely dismantled Iran's command and control center, which which makes it difficult for them to pass messages up and down the chain. And so we understand that. I would caution a little bit of patience, but of course we want to see the ceasefire effectuated and abided by all parties as quickly as possible.
Thank you. And the American presidential administrations, going back to Ronald Reagan, have said this formulation about nuclear war, that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. Is that still the view of this administration, given the president's comments about civilization?
I have no change in our view on that policy. Katie.
Thanks, Caroline. I'm just, given the gravity of what he said yesterday, what was your understanding of what he meant when he said, this civilization is going to be eliminated?
I think it was a very, very strong threat from the President of the United States that led the Iranian regime to cave to their knees and ask for a ceasefire and agree to reopening the Strait of Hormuz. So it was a very strong threat that led to results. And as the Secretary of War stated at the Pentagon this morning, it was not an empty threat by any means. The Pentagon had a target list that they were ready to hit go on at 8 p.m. last night if the Iranian regime had not agreed to open the Strait, which they did, and I think that's something we should all be grateful for.
The United States is a moral leader in the world, given that
I was asked this exact same question by your colleague Andrew in the back, and I think, again, the insinuation by anyone in this room that Iran somehow has the moral high ground over the United States of America is insulting, considering the atrocities that they have. Considering
They do,
the atrocities.
They do,
It's not about even moral high ground. It's like, bro, we invaded a country, a sovereign nation, for like no reason that wasn't a threat to us. That's the problem.
They 100% have the high ground. That's why NATO is not helping us. If we were so morally superior, don't you think G7, NATO, and every other country would have at least voiced support for the United States, nevertheless actually joined the war for the Strait, which they're suffering from? But they understand the greater good of Iran weaponizing the Strait. They have to. They have no other choice. So,
and not only that, remember, like, if you look at like when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, like 30 countries got involved, including NATO. Like it was like a huge coalition went in there.
World condemnation.
Just the war was just, so they all came in and helped. So, but like with this shit, bro, you can't justify this war at all.
Yeah.
And then you add in the fact like Netanyahu is a fucking, wanted war criminal.
That they have committed against our people and our military over the past 5 decades. John, go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Caroline.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna try to get Scott Horton on tomorrow at 7:30.
Nice, W.
And we're gonna talk about this shit. Yeah. Matter of fact, this reminds me.
Yeah. Also, Russia, Ukraine or something too.
One has to do with a statement, a joint statement put out this morning by some of America's European allies, our NATO allies. And in that joint statement, they said regarding the Strait of Hormuz, our governments will contribute to ensuring freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. What's the administration's reaction to that joint statement? Does that smooth things over when the president meets with NATO Secretary General a little bit later this afternoon?
I have a direct quote from the President of the United States on NATO, and I will share it with all of you. They were tested and they failed. And I would add, it's quite sad that NATO turned their backs on the American people over the course of the last 6 weeks when it's the American people who have been funding their defense. As you know, President Trump will be meeting with Secretary Rutte in a couple of hours here at the White House, and I know he looks forward to having a very frank and candid conversation with him.
And then secondly, in regards to this conflict, 38 days, as you pointed out, President Trump has said that there's been regime change.
Mr. Drippy, thank you for the 5 gifted.
Has that regime changed?
Bro, the regime change. This whole bullshit, man. It is. I can't believe they still like say this shit as if like the regime changed like for the better for the United States. The people that are in power now are worse.
Led to more freedoms for the Iranian people.
Bruh, what is this? 2003?
This is so stupid.
They hate us for free? Yo.
I think that's a question that's being asked a little bit too early, John, and we hope that is the case, but it's something that has yet to be seen.
All right, let's get into how Pakistan kind of got in the middle of this.
The program. Iran is a nation that prides itself on being one of the world's earliest centers of civilization. And today, Donald Trump threatened that that civilization could die tonight. The same US president who 2 days ago was posting profanities on Easter Sunday and mocking Islam. Tonight we ask, what is he up?
3 Diglets, thank you for the 50. I will read your chat in a moment so I can actually give it a thorough answer. And everybody else, Free Palestine, all you guys, I'll read your supers in a moment.
That shit was reckless.
Die tonight.
I'm sorry. I just said something in my chat really quick. Play it back 5 seconds.
Yeah, I got you.
And today, Donald Trump threatened that that civilization could die tonight. The same US president who 2 days ago was posting profanities on Easter Sunday and mocking Islam. Tonight, we ask, what is he up to and what does it mean for this war?
Yeah.
PM deadline looming for
Praise be to Allah.
bombardment. He posted, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen.
Who the fuck starts a tweet like that?
But it probably will. But he also hinted at hope
crazy,
for
man.
an 11th hour deal.
That's so reckless, huh?
Maybe
Crazy.
something revolutionary wonderful.
Absolutely crazy, bro.
Tonight, Pakistan is offering a glimmer of hope. But for now, Iran is saying it'll take the gloves off and hit the Gulf even harder.
One sec.
Yeah, I saw that Truth Social post. I thought it was fake, man. Then I went on Truth Social itself and I saw that it was real.
Go to this one.
The US president has been very complimentary about the role played by Field Marshal Qasem Munir. Who is he, and how much power does he have to steer the negotiation?
Yeah, I mean, very good question, Christian. I mean, Qasem Munir is Field Marshal Qasem Munir. He's the head of the armed forces here in Pakistan. He's been in that role since 2022. But in fact, last year, at the end of last year, there was an amendment made to Pakistan's constitution, and he was not only told that his title of Field Marshal, which was bestowed on him after the crisis between India and Pakistan in May of last year, was told that that title would be with him for life, but that also he was going to be given lifetime immunity from prosecution as well. Many people in Pakistan, or many observers of Pakistan, view the political system here as a hybrid system between both the civilian government and also the military that are involved. People have talked to me about it being a hand-in-glove form of operation. Now, exactly where they sit on that spectrum, how much of this is a civilian influence and how much of that is military, really fluctuates over the years. Many people saw that particular change as an indication that it's swinging more towards the military. And what's been really interesting is that President Trump seems to be paying very close attention to the military. While we do see that there is discussion about Shehbaz Sharif, the Prime Minister, it is Qasem Munir, his favourite Field Marshal. It was in fact Qasem Munir who went to lunch first of all with President Trump last summer. So President Trump seems to have this close bond with the Field Marshal, rather than necessarily, although of course we do know that he's been involved in a lot of the negotiations, Pakistan's Prime Minister. Now, in terms of how much sway Munir actually has over these forms of discussions, without being in the room, obviously it's very difficult to know.
And don't forget, guys, Pakistan is the only Muslim country that has nuclear weapons.
Yep.
It's the only Muslim majority country that has nuclear weapons. So, you know, they're not like something to be, you know, fucked with. They have a good intelligence service. They have a strong military. They fought India earlier this year, right? Battle of the Jeets, and right. But it is a very powerful country. And to be honest with you, dude, I think Pakistan knows, and so does Turkey, that like if Iran is to fall, like they're next, dude.
They're next. Yeah, 1,000,000%. Yeah, especially I think Turkey will be first. You know, that's my prediction. I think Turkey will be first. Yeah. Deal with the hardest one last. You know, because Pak's got a nuke, man. So there's no, you can't really. It's not feasible to topple that kind of regime when they've got a nuclear weapon, and Turkey is very strong as well. You know, so it's like ad nauseum. I don't know how much more obvious we can make it. Obviously, Steven Crowder. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I don't think Turkey has nukes. I think they house one of our nukes.
No, yeah, they don't have nukes themselves. No, I don't think they're a nuclear threat in any way. Could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure they're not. But we say this ad nauseum. It's like, how could you not see that this conflict is just a global issue, and how could you see a benefit in an Iranian regime falling, whether you like them or not, for the greater strategic benefit of the entire world? And that's why I hope you're able to talk to Steven Crowder about this and snap him out of it, because he's really lost his he lost the plot there. You know, I think he's very wrong, but hopefully you guys are able to have a good, fruitful conversation about it, and you can change his perspective, because I bet you there's a lot of things we discuss in detail that he has no idea about, because if he's consuming the media that I think he is, no wonder he's come to that conclusion.
MAGA ninjas like don't know foreign policy. It's actually really crazy.
Yeah, and that's a problem on the American right. That's a very big problem on the moderate right, is they've got no idea about foreign policy in the Middle East. And if you do, well, then and only then are you an actual expert and you're an informed voter. You know, you can actually make good decisions, have good discernment. These things are important. People think they don't need to know about the Middle East. No, that's probably the first thing you should learn about if you want to learn a lot about this country.
And also, the other thing also is that only the president does foreign policy. So, like, you know, if you know, economy, all this other stuff, like, you can kind of battle that to a degree, right? But the economy doesn't matter when you're getting hit with nuclear weapons, right? Or we're getting dragged into war. So, like, the president of the United States, like, they run immigration, they run, obviously, foreign policy, etc. So, like, it's very important to understand this shit.
Absolutely.
Right? Especially a region like the Middle East.
But again, where does Pakistan sit on this spectrum? We know it's not going to be at the one end of the spectrum where it can actually strong-arm the US or Iran into a deal. It has not got that level of power. No one suggests it does. The other end of the spectrum is that it just passes messages between the two. Or is it somewhere in between, where it is shaping those messages, where it is trying to encourage both sides to come to the table and find something that is more palatable to the other side? Well, I spoke to a source here in Pakistan late last night who, at the time, we hadn't heard that there would be a ceasefire, and they told me that there was still this discussion ongoing, that they were continuing apace, and they also talked about the fact that this was a very small circle here in Pakistan that are involved in these discussions, that are involved in this back and forth. We don't know exactly who those individuals were, but
obviously, you remember when Israel struck Qatar and they were aiming to strike Hamas officials in the midst of negotiations, and then Saudi Arabia, in response to that, created some sort of alliance with Pakistan. And so what does that look like for the new Middle East? Look at these four countries right here: Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey. Is it going to be them against like this kind of Israeli shadow axis, which will be the UAE, Israel, and then maybe a couple other countries that I don't know. I can think of any others that come to mind right now. But
Abraham Accord regions.
Yeah, of course, Morocco, Sudan, El Sudan, but Sudan's not even. Sudan's a non-asset anyway.
Those niggas definitely joined in for the money, bro. Come on, man.
I gotta admit,
the niggas for the money, bro.
Signing the Cuck Accords with no military power is wild. But no, it's Mr. Drippy. Thank you so much for the membership. Thank you. God bless, bro.
It wasn't Hemeti. It was the SAF, right?
I believe it was. Yeah, I don't think it was.
SAF is actually the real government, or the real military. So
these armed forces, but at least a centralized government. But I mean, you got Saudi Arabia now and Pakistan. They're pretty closely aligned, and so what does that look like when Israel tries to undermine these deals moving forward? Is Saudi Arabia finally going to fully condemn Israel and kind of move away from the United States? There's many outcomes potentially possible here, because right now Saudi Arabia is armed up against Iran. They're completely against Iran, where Pakistan is kind of like, I'm sure they acknowledge the fact that Iran is actually being the defensive one here. At least they've said that in official statements. So what does that look like in the next 3-4 years, few months as this continues on? This will fracture our relations in the Middle East, and this is going to create what we're seeing right now. That will become a real axis, and those are strong-ass countries. All four of them, really three. Saudi Arabia more economically powerful than anything, and that's where they want to undermine the UAE, is economic power. So Egypt is strong, Pakistan is strong, Turkey's strong. They come together closely. What does that look like? What does that mean for us? A lot of questions to be asked here.
No, absolutely. And based on attack on one is attack on both, which is kind of funny because it didn't trigger Pakistan defense for Saudi Arabia with the Iranians hitting them. So
and then look, is Pakistan really going to fight against the United States and Israel? We are the strongest military in the world for a reason. I don't think Pakistan is a peacemaker. They seem to want to broker peace in the region, but the fact that they're supposed
to defend Saudi Arabia is what I meant. They should be technically striking Iran.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, exactly. The fact that they haven't stuck in or actually stuck their nose in after the strike on Riyadh is telling that they just want to broker peace. Because if they were going by the terms, they really should have started fighting against Israel. But then, now Israel's fighting 5 countries. Oh, all the countries are attacking me, and then it would have been maybe a nuclear war. So those are things too that you got to think about.
It's kind of funny, bro, because I go on my Twitter feed and I see like Avon Levy and Yosef Haddad, all these like, Dr. Eli David, Vivid Prowse, like all these Zionist accounts. Bro, niggas are crying about running to the tunnels, bro. They're like crying like, oh my God, this is the 7th time I had to go to the tunnel. What the fuck? Like we hate Iran. And it's like, bro, like you guys are seriously sitting here bitching about getting your city blown up and like running to tunnels. Like you guys just did a genocide.
Yeah.
Yo, the lack of wherewithal to understand that, like, them getting on the internet and complaining about getting hit back is fucking nuts, bro.
It's
like they're
immune. It's DNA, bro. The victimhood is DNA. It's crazy, you know. So yeah, if Pakistan joined in on it, it would definitely give Israel all the talking points to say, maybe we've got to use a nuke. I mean, everybody hates us. We've got to attack everybody. You know, maybe that's where it would go. But I had some chats really quick. Is it okay if I read them? I don't have too many. I know you got to close out in a moment.
Yeah.
But I'll very quickly go through them. Somebody said podcast name. Maybe one day could be Brother in Arms. I like that. That's good. Downtown Super Chat, $5. Said, Riyadh, do you know anything about Israelis starting forest fires in Argentina to buy up the burned lands back in February and March? I heard about this today. Yeah, I was hearing about that. William Dida 1185, thank you so much for the $5. Free Palestine says, if death to America means us, then Trump is cooked. I don't know if you mean U.S. or us, but yeah, regardless, Trump is cooked. 3 Diglets, $50. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate your constant support. Riyadh, blacks and Jewish people are going to war in New York City. Jews attempting to steal their property, and blacks saying, we were the first Jews. Who can out-Jew in this situation? Thanks. That's really good. I don't know, man. The two groups of people that exercise extreme victim mindsets, right? So it's a battle of who's got more bragging rights when it comes to who's oppressed more. That's really what it boils down to. Again, Mr. Drippy, thank you for joining. And then Mr. Drippy says, love your streams together. I will always support you guys. 07. God bless you, bro. Thank you for the 10. We appreciate the support, and it is always, always heartfelt. Go ahead, bro.
Okay.
The assumption, of course, is that the Field Marshal Hassan Munir will be involved in it, that Shahbaz Sharif, the Prime Minister, will be involved in it. So unless you're in the room, it's really difficult to know quite how much influence Munir seems to have over President Trump and his perception.
Yeah, Trump really likes Pakistan.
Of the relationship and what Iran is offering as well.
It's one of the more intriguing parts of the negotiation, this leads, because it's been the Qataris who've been the middlemen in this negotiation with Iran to this point. But of course, Pakistan has a long border with Iran, gets a lot of its oil from Iran, and it's returning in some ways to the role it played in the 1970s when it helped broker that rapprochement between the United States and China.
Yes, it's a very complicated relationship. There's a very close personal relationship between Hassan Munir and President Trump, as Kerry has just been outlined it. It's also been strengthened by the buying of cryptocurrency. There's now reports in New York Times they bought a hotel together. So they're in business together, which of course is what President Trump likes to do. So like leaders the world over, the leaders of Pakistan have been trying to figure out how to get President Trump on side. Shahbaz Sharif, the Prime Minister, was very quick to join the Board of Peace. And when the war started dragging on and there was a need for mediators to emerge, the Gulf states were so furious with Iran that they just stepped back. They thought we're engaged in self-defense. So this is why countries which were not in the direct line of fire, Turkey, Egypt, Pakistan, came to the fore. And again, as Kerry said, Pakistan seemed to be a natural fit. And
that's like the new era of NATO.
Because of what was said to be a personal relationship between Hassan Munir and the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament when he was a top commander in the IRGC, so a military-to-military contact, he was able, we don't know how he picked because of the digital difficulties now, or the communications difficulties with Iran, he was able to talk to his Iranian counterpart. And similarly, Shahbaz Sharif, the Pakistani Prime Minister, said in an hour-long conversation with the President of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian. So they've used their personal contacts, their brotherly relations, Islamic nations. So there's a lot going for Pakistan's role. But there needs to be people. It's hard to do real diplomacy without experienced diplomats.
I've just been sent a message reporting from the FT that the White House pushed Pakistan to broker this temporary ceasefire.
All right, let's see what else we got here. Let's go ahead and look at Lebanon.
Yeah.
I'll just
Last
go
strikes
until
I saw were as of a couple hours ago, so it seems like hopefully it's slowed down.
As we continue
Here we go. There's Vance.
our coverage on our tonight, very reporting say. So right now, we're seeing repeated violations of the ceasefire throughout the region, and it depends on how you characterize that. But J.D. Vance is saying that Lebanon was never included. The Iranians, for them, it's a deal breaker, and there are reported attacks throughout the Gulf by Iran involving missiles and drones, and so it's very hard to see that this ceasefire can be called in effect at the moment. And frankly, there's a lot of concern about whether or not it can last until when the talks really begin in earnest on Saturday.
And we do know that Iran says the Strait is close to U.S. violations. The White House says that's not true. What are Americans supposed to believe right now?
Right now there are real conflicting reports about the status of the Strait of Hormuz, about the goals in the Strait of Hormuz. Vice President J.D. Vance was asked a lot of questions about this toll system that Iran wants to set up, in which it's going to try and regenerate a lot of the money that it needs to rebuild its country. Yeah,
because the U.S. ain't going to give reparations, let's be honest.
So, if the U.S. were to leave Iran in control of the Strait.
Bro, isn't that crazy how Iran is, even they're like, yo, dumbass Tariq Nasheed is asking for reparations that he didn't even earn. Meanwhile, these niggas in Iran got blown up and they're like, yo, you owe us reparations. Like, is it crazy?
Yeah.
Like Tariq is trying to get reparations when it's like, bro, you got no real case. Meanwhile, these niggas got bombed in the fucking hell.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. And no, it's so true. And I'm telling you, man, they're actually probably going to be able to make a lot of money off of the Strait. The United States is going to allow them to do that because we did destroy. We brag all day in the Pentagon and the White House as to how much we've destroyed. So now we've got to give them some of that back, and they can make some money off of the Strait. Yep.
Some countries are definitely bitching about it, but yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Where it's exacting tolls on international commerce, that would be a deterioration in maritime safety from when the war started. So I don't know if that will be acceptable. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said that would not be acceptable to President Trump. So we'll have to see where we go from here.
Right. You brought up the tolls. I did want to talk about what role insurance companies play in all of this. The U.S. and Iran can negotiate the passage of the Strait, but insurance companies, they're the ones who give the green light.
That's right. For a lot of these shipping companies, traveling through the Strait at such a dangerous time without any insurance would be a deal breaker. These tankers are worth, these are hundreds of millions of dollars. They're carrying a lot of cargo. And this is really what snarled world traffic. It's not that even if the U.S. were to try and safeguard these ships, the risk is just so high of catastrophic loss that, a lot of them are not willing to take that chance. And when Iran has fired on tankers in the past, it creates a real dangerous situation for them. And so no matter what happens in the days ahead, if one of the goals, as has been stated, is restoring free flow of trade through the Strait of Hormuz, Iran retains a lot of leverage going into these negotiations on Saturday.
Phil, I also want to know more about just how we got to this ceasefire. You tweeted yesterday that we started with a threat to civilization and ended with a ceasefire. How did all of this happen in just 1 day time?
It was a pretty dramatic day, and for a lot of us that were covering the space, the U.S. really did have a military plan to go and strike a lot of targets last night. So folks who think that this was strictly a bluff, our reporting indicates that there was real planning underway to go hard, in a campaign last night. So there's that, and actually, we're learning more about the role that Vice President Vance and others had in creating the conditions for President Trump to decide to call off that strike. But again, right now, we have to all sort of assess whether the ceasefire can last. Because at the moment, it looks like the United States is the one that isn't striking, whereas we still have Israel and Iran carrying out strikes in the region.
And I do want to talk about Vice President Vance in just a moment here, but you're reporting that the new Supreme Leader was involved with the ceasefire negotiations. Can you give us a little bit of detail on that reporting?
We don't know that. That's what's been reported by Axios's Barak Ravid, but we haven't confirmed that at Reuters yet. But yeah, he's confirming that actually the Supreme Leader had a role.
Yeah,
that was sort of surprising to a lot of us.
Reuters owned by Rothschild.
Sort of been out of
Axios.
sight.
Yeah, Axios and Reuters.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth this morning again spoke about the Supreme Leaders being disfigured and injured from a bombing at the start of the campaign on February 28th. So the status of the Supreme Leader is not clear to us at Reuters, but yeah, Barak Ravid from Axios did report that the Supreme Leader was involved in making this deal, helping get it across the finish line, I guess.
And I did want to go into some reporting here about the vice president. The White House says that Trump is to discuss a possibility of withdrawing from NATO in a meeting in a couple of hours with NATO's Secretary General. Have you learned anything about this update?
We don't know yet what's going to come out of that meeting, but it doesn't sound from what's been telegraphed by the president himself, last week, and from Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, today. It looks like this meeting is going to be pretty rough. The president has accused NATO allies of not standing alongside the United States in its campaign against Iran.
Bro really hates NATO, man. I think that's why he likes Putin so much.
For a lot of NATO nations and European allies, they don't see a
because he looks at NATO like these guys are like freeloaders.
legal justification for the war. They didn't.
I said this the other day. There's truth to that, right? Like, we spend more than all the other next 5-6 countries in NATO combined on military funding. You know, we provide them tons of security, we provide them tons of resources, and for what we get back in return is almost not worth it. One can make the argument. And so if the United States is to pull out of NATO, I don't even know if I'm entirely opposed to that, if maybe the stipulations are correct or there's some plan for it, but to make the reason that they won't cuck for Israel is crazy. You know, I'm pulling out of NATO because of America first is much different than I'm pulling out of NATO because they won't do my bidding in the Middle East and die for Israel. And that's kind of the whole angle that Trump is taking on right now. And why do that? You know, you're destroying our foreign relations. They have a right to be mad. They're getting a halt of oil because you started a war for no good reason, except for the fact that Marco Rubio admitting that Israel was going to strike first. So, of course, NATO's not just going to jump in and support. They have a valid claim there. However, if Trump had said, you know, NATO takes too much money, the Russia-Ukraine conflict is dragging on too long, whatever else have you, then maybe there's some argumentation there. But just for the sole reason of this war not involving themselves, I mean, why would we do that? And by the way, or why would they do that? By the way, Iran greenlit like every country. Like, no, there was no red lines here. Iran would have bombed anybody if they got involved. They're fighting for their existence, people.
Yeah.
The United States and Israel are trying to knock Iran off of the planet. They're trying to cease their existence for all intents and purposes. So
some exiled crown.
Yeah. So if any European country got involved, these weak-ass European countries, well, then they would have been subject to Iranian drone strikes, missiles. They can't handle that. And they're well within range, you know? It's not intercontinental missiles that are going to be required to hit some of these NATO countries. So why the hell would they get involved and greenlight their country, put their civilians in harm's way? Yeah, and this is also like Trump. Exactly. And Trump saying, I want NATO to be involved, is him begging for a legitimate World War III. How many countries do you want to be on the laundry list of this war? You know, you want all of Europe to be involved, then you want the Middle East to be involved, the Gulf countries are now fighting with you, you want World War III. You know, this is crazy. The guy who said no new wars is now scolding NATO for not fighting in his war that will exacerbate a new world conflict. You know, this is already a regional issue. He's trying to make it a global one. NATO does not need to be involved. Not at all.
They didn't agree that there was an imminent threat posed by Iran that would justify the start of the campaign on February 28th. And so they haven't been able to legally participate without, you know, some sort of legal basis that could be approved by their respective parliaments. So there is a real breach right now between the United States and NATO. And it is possible the president will make a major announcement that could affect transatlantic ties for years to come.
And Phil, before we do let you go, what's the latest here on in-person negotiations? We're saying that Witkoff, Kushner, and Vice President Vance will be in Pakistan this weekend. What do you know about this?
Oh, that's right. You know, so that was announced also today that the three, that these three major individuals in the Trump administration are going to be going to Islamabad to try and negotiate an in-person agreement with Iran, and that is significant. There were safety considerations that President Trump spoke.
Where did you get the reporting that JD Vance might not go?
I saw that from Disclosed TV on X that was allegedly out of New York Times and New York Post, and there were some floating rumors. I don't know if it's true, but I can show you here. Give me one moment.
I think Araghchi specifically requested Vance.
Vance, and that's what I said. I wasn't sure, and I wasn't sure if it was a legitimate report. But if that was the case, because right now,
No, I said, bro, it's tired of Kushner and Witkoff, bro.
Yeah. No, they're idiots. It's just right now, I feel like JD Vance is going to make a request from potentially Israel, primarily to get them to stop. All Vance is worried about, for me, I'm just going into what I would think if I was JD Vance. If I'm JD Vance right now, I'm going to tell all agreeing parties, or all negotiating parties really, that Israel has to stop their strikes in Lebanon. That has to stop. Hezbollah, allegedly, from Rerum Novarum 20 minutes ago, just said they're going to retaliate for the 200 death count. You know, so if I'm JD Vance, I'm going to try and diffuse Israel. And the problem is, I think JD Vance and Donald Trump are not parallel on blaming Israel. Washington has not let out one single condemnation. And if I'm running for president and I'm a part of the administration that's not condemning the country exacerbating the issue, well, then I'm probably going to want to, in some way, publicly facingly condemn Israel. He hasn't done it yet, and he said there's several 10-point plans, but I imagine that Vance and Trump are probably not getting along in the best terms right now, because he's ruining his chance at presidency. He's ruining it completely. So he wants to be the hero who delivers us out of this, but he cannot do it if Israel keeps fighting. So it's just an interesting position he's in. He'll probably be there, but you know, if he's not there, then we know that him and Trump got into it, and Trump said, "You're not going to be the hero," because Trump's giving him the in right now to be like, "Go be the hero, go save the day." You know what I mean?
And not only that, like the other thing to keep in mind is JD Vance definitely has his hand in this. He was the one that said hit him hard, you know, and fast, because he also thought it was going to be a warrior mission.
Yeah.
So
And Vance, he's been voicing for strikes against Iran for years. So obviously it's not genuine. Yep, obviously it's not genuine, but he just wants to save face and look good for 2028, and he wants to look like the hero of the administration. And the U.S. media is already pushing that idea. We're watching Fox News, and they keep saying JD Vance is going to be the Messiah who saves us and delivers us from this war. But, you know, really, for him to effectively do that, he's going to have to condemn Israel. Washington has not condemned Israel. You got to condemn Israel. They can still be your ally, whatever. I know their goals, but you got to condemn Israel and say they can't strike Lebanon anymore. And that'll actually help Iran to trust us more. If we voice a little bit of condemnation, like, hey, look, we know we cuck for you, that's fine, but lay off Lebanon a little bit, you know, lay off of every other part of Iran that you're striking. Tell the Gulf countries to back off of Tehran. There's been none of that. It's just NATO, NATO, NATO. And it's like dissonance. It's like, where is Trump's mind at? You know, so for me, if I'm Vance, I'm pissed. If I'm JD Vance, I'm pissed, because there's a brain-dead guy who's 100 years old running the country, saying stupid shit on Truth Social every day, talking about a civilization will die. And look, Caroline Leavitt and everybody else within the White House is struggling to explain his words and his actions. JD Vance is going to suffer the most. You know, this guy wants to be president. That's his goal. It's not going to happen if he can't make it look like he delivered us from the situation. So we'll see.
All right.
All speculation, you know.
Let me read these chats real quick. I remember when you did NBA Youngboy case, you were shocked Feds fumbled. Okay, Abraham says, my family has close connections with Pakistani high-ranking government and prime minister. Historically, Pakistan is very anti-Israel up to just last year for the whole Muslim world. Abraham says, funny how the Zionist Jays are about to go negotiate in Islamabad. Yep. I love the streams with both you and Riyadh. It's an exceptional mix. Also, if you decide to follow another case like you did with Diddy, it'd be great to have Riyadh join you. Well, he's going to call me for the Tyler Robinson thing in Utah. Yeah. Fun fact: Caroline Leavitt is 28 and her husband is 60. Married last year. He's a G, but she still looks in late 30s. Yeah, Caroline Leavitt is aging badly. She looks like she's in her 30s. Yeah. W stream. When's Rod hitting up F and to cook these 304s soon? You remember, guys, he has a regular job. JHC says got to be a tough job to answer for all the wild shit Trump says. Yep. SS Dom, have you heard of the Athena Stan case? FedEx driver abducted and killed a 7-year-old girl a couple years ago. I did not hear about that. Alberto says. Not so noobish. Okay. Buzz Killington, does Saudi Arabia benefit from Iran being crippled? Yes, kind of. Dia Chow, Myron, if you're president, how would you handle NATO and the end Russia-Ukraine conflict? I would just tell Ukraine, you got to concede on the land and we're not going to expand NATO. I thought I was watching Oprah last night, the way Myron handled the showdown, Shadow Realms. Exactly. Everyone gets a realm. Geeter says USS George Bush left on March 31st. It takes about 3 weeks to get to some proximity of where the USS Abraham Lincoln is located. About 2 weeks. The math shakes out for this 2 week. Okay, I see what you're saying.
For everybody in my chat.
Your brother's channel, super chats, yes, and become a member on his channel too. Become a member and then super chat.
I'm cooking. Look at my screen.
Army has,
cooking with a thumbnail. What do you think?
Fat loss coaching program.
Not bad, right?
Talk to my guy, One Chess, guys. Make sure
we do our thing around here.
Hire him as your coach if you're tired of being a fat POS. He's here. I'm dropping a link in the chat for all of you. Okay, shout out to all the doorknobs on my land. Okay, that's interesting. Myron Unfiltered, you made me realize that being a fat fuck was 100% choice. Thanks for you and One Chest getting me in shape. Got you, my friend, Myron Unfiltered. So, okay, we'll finish watching this video, and then I'll probably take off here in a little bit.
About.
You're going to keep the stream going?
Yeah, I can. We kind of covered everything, but I'll stay for a little longer. I'll do a full recap, and then I'll give my prediction as to Friday and Saturday.
All right, let me finish this thing here.
Traveling to Islamabad earlier today, so obviously there have been, discussions about the safety of the delegation in Islamabad, and there's been a consensus that this is worth doing. We'll have to see whether or not over the next 24, 48 hours, whether they actually get on that plane and make that trip. These ceasefire violations are going to put enormous pressure on the United States to show its leverage if they continue.
All right, Phil Stewart with Reuters. Phil, we appreciate your time. You're reporting here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Guys, go check out my brother, man. He's going to stay on Riyadh's Report on YouTube. Let me see if I can find, let me grab his channel real quick because I got to get going here. Open up a tab, watch Fresh and Fit, then open up my brother's channel as well. Report right here. Here we go. He's going to stay on. Here's his channel, guys. Right. Riyadh Report, boom. He's at 18K. We're almost going to he's almost at 20K. There's his channel. This is the stream that he's watching, as you guys can see here. So make sure to go check him out. I am going to dip out. I'll be live on my stuff as well. Love you, ninjas. Riyadh, you good?
All good, yeah. Peace out, bro.
All right, brother. All right, man. Later, guys. We're going to start Fresh Fit now, guys. Love you guys. Bye.
All right. So, yeah, W coverage. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. But that's where we are. I know I had a spike in viewership around midway point of the show, and so I'll just give a brief recap, kind of my take on I think what's going to happen, and I'll only go for a little bit longer, and then I'll let everybody run over to the Fresh and Fit podcast. But yeah, I mean, this is where we are right here. The key things to keep in mind, there's a temporary ceasefire. Of course, Friday and Saturday primarily around, I think, 10 a.m. local time, Washington, so that's Eastern time, will be these peace talks led by the Middle Eastern envoy, but really primarily J.D. Vance. So it's going to be J.D. Vance, Jared Kushner, Stephen Witkoff. Stephen Witkoff and Jared Kushner were already a part of previous talks back in the Middle East before the conflict started in the middle of February. That was in Geneva and then Oman. And of course, we kind of undermined it and just struck Iran on the 28th with Israel in joint strikes anyways. But we'll see if we can retrieve where we were prior to the conflict. However, I do see a difficult situation for J.D. Vance. I don't see a permanent off-ramp. Why don't I see a permanent off-ramp in guaranteed peace? Well, that's obvious. Of course, many of you already can take a good guess or a good stab at why in regards to that theory. It's because of the fact that Israel is going to exacerbate the issue, always poke the bear, always ensure that the United States has to step in. But now Israel's graduated from allowing the United States to step in and mediate or really tip their finger on the scale. Now we're stepping in and we're actually joining Israel in the fight. So it's one thing if we're stepping in and mediating the issue. So long as we can do that, we can keep Israeli hegemony at bay. We can keep the IRGC in power, the proxies in power, which gives us autonomy in the Middle East, or really the ability to discern our power. But if we're joining the war against Israel, well, then that's a whole different issue. As this war continues, keep in mind, Lebanon was struck this morning. As a result, of course, Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran. They're being subject to attack, and the Lebanese civilians, 1 million people displaced in Lebanon. So in response to this, Iran has blockaded the Strait of Hormuz. Again, that was what was going to guarantee the ceasefire, at least for the next 2 weeks until we can reach these talks, is the Strait of Hormuz being open, oil being relieved in terms of economic pressure across the world, stock prices kind of falling back into where they should be on Wall Street. But if they block that passageway, well, then it's not going to happen. And they have. ever since around 9 or 10 a.m. this morning Eastern time in the United States, when Israel started their bombing onslaught on Lebanon and Beirut, as well as the south of Lebanon. Well, Iran responded promptly, and they blocked the Strait of Hormuz again, and only 4 dry ships with no oil passed through. So again, the oil is still halted. It still has not gone anywhere, and so long as Israel continues the strikes, well, then Iran is not going to open up the strait, and then we're going to face the backlash economically, and every other country in Europe and Asia that are going to feel this quicker than we are going to express their concern. Where does this put J.D. Vance? In a really tough position. He's going to have to be the hero who brings us home. He's going to have to be the guy who delivers us from this issue and invokes peace. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to allow the United States to really pull out. He may say one thing, and we know that him and Trump spoke on the phone last night, and Benjamin Netanyahu said, you guys have been a great ally. I'll try to help you in every way I can. And then following that conversation, of course, this morning, he, of course, commands the IDF to strike southern Lebanon. So the whole thing with Israel here is they're not going to want to stop while they have momentum. We've already snowballed, right? The United States has technically made progress in at least destroying infrastructure. That is something. But we have not progressed in decapitating the Araghchi. Somebody may say, oh, we killed other leaders. Yeah, but they're still able to operate independently of that. We haven't seized any nuclear enriched uranium or enriched uranium. We have not seized any missile launchers. Maybe we destroyed a bunch, but we still have not destroyed their capability. I said this last stream, we shot down, or they shot down an F15 jet right out of the sky. So they still have the ability to threaten the air. They still have the ability to threaten the Gulf countries. They still have the ability to threaten every other neighbor in the region. So what goals have we reached? We got into this war in the beginning saying Iran is a terrorist regime. We're going to destroy, really Israel wants to destroy the proxies, and we're going to destroy their missiles program, which is what Netanyahu wants, and their nuclear program, which is what the United States and Netanyahu wants, primarily, of course, Israel, Netanyahu. And so we've done none of that. We've done none of that. Who's to say Israel is going to allow us to just pull out now? You know, we got a bunch of momentum. The iron's hot. So I don't think this will end. That's my bold prediction. I know. Not a bold prediction. I'm sure all of you agree with me. And so we'll see what happens in the coming days or really weeks. But I mean, yesterday I did my stream. I said this earlier. I finished my stream and I had my clipper, shout out Halimi, I had my clipper make a video out of it, of course, of some of my monologue in the beginning in regards to giving the news about Trump saying a whole civilization will die, and then the ceasefire, and then Araghchi's 10-point plan, and then Trump acknowledging that we'll work off of the basis of the 10-point plan. I reported all of that, and I said, yo, let's make a nice video tomorrow. Let's post it at 2 p.m. I had the video scheduled literally at around 9 a.m., 10 a.m. Eastern time. Israel starts striking the hell out of southern Lebanon. Now, and so I upload this video, and the video is already old news. I say that to really drive home the point that this war and this conflict is ever changing. There's new developments every single day, critical ones that change the whole trajectory of what we're even talking about. And so I'll continue to pay close attention. I went live almost every single day this week because the news has been ever changing, ever growing in regards to developments. It's been really, really big. Maybe in the last week, things were a little bit slower. It was just real, airstrikes on Tehran, same old, Strait of Hormuz blockaded. Oil prices shooting up. Trump says something on Truth Social. He says a peace deal is on its way. He says ceasefire for 48 hours, 7 days will give them to decide. And he kind of calms the stock prices and the oil prices. And I think his final operation with that F15, where we were probably going to try and seize uranium, failed. And so Trump said we're going to need a 2-week breather to kind of recoup and figure our stuff out, or hopefully even potentially reach peace, right? I don't know what's being said in Washington. We can only speculate to some degree. But what I will say is there's no doubt Israel will be in the middle of everything, trying to spark the flame again, trying to add fuel to the already existing fire. And of course, we have a bunch of Middle Eastern officials coming out of the New York Times now. I'm reading this saying that they presume, or they really assume, that this conflict in the Middle East will continue. This is a short-lived ceasefire. And we know that because Iran's not going to stop blockading the Strait of Hormuz unless the United States promises this is over and we won't do it again. Are we going to be able to give them that promise? Highly unlikely. We got to be realistic here. So anyways, nice little recap. Hopefully that makes sense for you guys if you jumped in late. That was for the late people. I know for the people that were in here earlier, a little bit repetitive, but I really got to break that down for everybody who wasn't here because the news has just been crazy in the last 72 hours. I've been live every day trying to grind it out. I'm at work getting developments and I'm like, damn, I got to go live tonight. There's no way I can skip this out. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Should be live tomorrow. But let's read some chats. Got some chats, so let's read some super chats from you guys. Thank you so much for the love. Sleech says, Riyadh report, Stephen Colbert report. Thanks so much. Yeah, I agree. It's The Wire. Okay. Thanks for the $2. Mr. Ferdinand, any comment on Crowder's random attack on you guys? Yeah, I mean, Crowder is... Look, man. Not going to shit on him. But I expect more from him. I expected that he would be a little bit more cognizant on foreign policy. I thought that he would have a better take on the whole situation. I mean, it's really hard. You know, I tweeted this. It's really hard to get this wrong. You know what I mean? So I hope that he takes up on my brother's acceptance of the debate request, because he said at the end of that clip that he would discuss it happily with anybody. He showed Sneeko. He showed my brother, a couple other people that had the position that this war was no good. Interestingly, he didn't bring up Nick, which I thought was funny. But I hope that him and my brother have a good conversation. It's an indefensible position. If you're in support of this war, you're either coping because you really don't want to attack Trump, and I suppose I can understand some of that sentiment, especially because you don't want to be grouped in with the left, but it's time to graduate and move on. You know, you're either coping or you really are brain dead. You know, so I'll say it's cope, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know if it'll be the most fruitful conversation. I mean, you know, he played a clip that China is trying to invoke a ceasefire, so that means that the United States is winning and that this is bad for China and bad. I don't even know what the point he was attempted to be made. I don't know what he was trying to say there. Look, China gets most of their oil from the Gulf. So obviously it's better for them to end this conflict, but the reason that they really stepped in and begged for diplomacy is because a regional conflict was about to turn global. Why? Because if we hit their power structure, they hit the Gulf power structure, the whole world doesn't get oil. That's why. That's really why. That doesn't mean they're not on the Iranian side. They are. They gave them the technology that likely helped them shoot down several U.S. aircrafts. Russia as well. Allegedly, it was a Russian missile that hit that F-15 jet on Friday. Did you know that? So they're not on the U.S. side. It's just this has now become a global conflict. No one wants the Strait of Hormuz blocked. Nobody wants that strait blocked. But they understand the greater evil, or the lesser evil really, which is Iran needs to utilize that to defend themselves. And they have the right to defend themselves. Of course, it's unfortunate they weaponize the strait, but what else are they going to do? Hit U.S. soil? Like you know what I mean? BDM on lock. Riyadh, you should stream on Kick so you have less delay. Do I have that much delay? Thanks for the super chat. Yeah, I don't know why. It's maybe an OBS setting. I'll fix it, man. It's The Wire 6602. Is it true that the U.S. just approved to automatically add draft eligible men to the military list by December? I didn't see that. Is that true? I didn't see that. I don't know. Thank you for the super chat, though. Big Draco 420. I appreciate the breakdown. Definitely learning something new every time I listen to you and Big Bro. Hey, God bless you, bro. I'm glad that it's beneficial for you. Zachary Trevin says, can anyone clip for you, or do you prefer just certain people W stream? Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm going to probably need more people on Instagram to clip. But I don't need clips pages, right? I got my guy Halimi running the clips page and then my YouTube shorts, but it is helpful for exposure. I got to get into the meta algorithm. That's the next goal, to get into meta, like really, really seep into meta, because I'm not technically banned yet. Like, they won't see my face and just strike me down like they will with other guys. So I have the opportunity to seize a lot of audience from meta, and so I want to try and capitalize on that while I can before, unfortunately, the inevitable ensues and I'm maybe banned. I hope that's not the case, right? I've been good, but you just never know these days. You got to play it safe. So I want to infiltrate meta. I want to try to get on meta and get in the algorithm just a little bit. Of course, if any of you clip me up, please just say Myron's brother. Don't just say Riyadh. Who the hell is just going to watch me because I'm Riyadh? I know that obviously you guys enjoy watching me as well, but like, if it's titled, Myron's brother, that's what's really going to captivate people to watch past 2 or 3 seconds, right? So clip up me and him together on meta. It'll do well. It'll do well. You just got to find the right clips. And it's not always political clips. If you go to a lot of my streams, I'm talking about other stuff that's funny and stuff. So the lighthearted stuff will help you out as well. But I know I'm not that famous to where you can farm me, right? I'm not that well known, but to some degree you should be able to benefit. If you farm Myron a little bit, throw me in there, definitely can clip. But in terms of me needing a clipper, not currently, Zachary. But if I do need one in the future, which is likely, I will take you up, if that's what your question is kind of insinuating, right? So But yeah, good discussion. It was good to break this down. I think that me and my brother have the best real in detail breakdown on YouTube, no doubt. I mean, is it a debate at this point? Crowder, I don't think he's on YouTube. If he is, he's demonetized. He's primarily on Rumble. He's a big creator on Rumble. Crowder's wrong about this, right? He's talking about China. Doesn't really know what he's talking about, with all due respect. You got all the other boomers who don't know anything. And Steven Crowder has a boomer audience. I mean, Gen X, millennial audience. None of the Gen Zers watch him, so it's not really like a part of the revolution. You need young people to really watch you. So, because once somebody's like 50, 55 plus, this is so crude, but it's like, bro, they're not going to exist much longer. So what's the use of their support? It's like, it's kind of true. Retirement age people are just not the key audience. You know, you got to shift the masses in terms of the youth if you want to actually have your message make some change. You know, look at Nick Fuentes. So you need the youth. You need the 40 and younger crowd. You know, once it gets to like 55, it's diminishing returns, really. The gains are not to be felt. I know that's tough, but yeah. Anyways, okay, guys. I know I'm riffing ad nauseum, so I apologize for the long-winded recap, but hopefully that was an entertaining stream. We went for about 2.5 hours, not too bad. We will be back tomorrow, likely, because there will be some development. And if not, look, if there's no news, I don't like to beat a dead horse. If there's nothing to talk about, then maybe I won't be on, because I was on several times this week, and I will wait for Friday or Saturday so we have something to talk about in regards to the peace deal. I'm watching the news closely. I'm studying it for you guys. Follow me on X. Wait, don't leave. Don't leave. Hang on. Need to plug myself. I always forget to plug myself. Okay, follow me on X. This is my X. I'm always tweeting on here, giving updates. Okay? MAGA fatigue. You know, I voiced my frustration on here. Oh, it's got 1K likes. Am I tripping? Oh, no, this did. So follow me on X. Oops. Hey. And you'll get live updates and reactions and my takes on things there. And then, of course, you're on the YouTube now, so please subscribe if you have not. I appreciate the support. And then this is my Instagram. We're growing it slowly but surely. A couple viral clips here of, you know, the Iran situation. We farm our boy Sneeko. One of these did really well. Maybe it was on YouTube. But, you know, jump on Instagram, give that a follow. And that's really it. Any chats before I close out here? Desert Joe, as someone above 50, I'm going to try and not be offended. God bless you, Desert. Not you, Desert. Not you. Not you at all, bro. Okay? We love you. Shout out to Desert. Yo, you've been amazing, man. Thank you for the help. You're a great moderator. Shout out to all the mods. Tia Kiki, Desert, One Chest. Appreciate the love, guys. As someone above 50, I'm gonna try. Look, I'm not opposed to an older audience. Actually, I think most of the people who watch me are like in their 30s, give or take. But you know, it's just a dig at Crowder. Like, you know, he doesn't have any of the impressionable fan base. So it's just like people don't have an impressionable audience, and they're also getting things wrong. It like just makes sense. You know, you see the parallel there. I have to admit that. I have to highlight that. Mason says, how did I get more on Dean compared to your brother, considering you're the youngest? How did I? I think you mean, how did you get more on Dean? I think you had a typo there. Thanks for the $8. You know, I mean, look, I was in the mosque a lot growing up. He wasn't as much. So maybe that played a role. But, you know, I was in the mosque more often. I had the chance to, because where we moved, this is some real insider lore. You're getting some good lore right here. Where my brother originally lived in Connecticut is not where I grew up. We moved, okay? And so when we moved, I had access to a better mosque with a better teaching program or system than he kind of did, at least when I was young, maybe like 12 or 13. I'm 24 now, for those of you who don't know. And so maybe that played a role, but I guess that's really the primary reason. So we grew up in different areas. He went to a completely different high school than me. And of course, there's a 12-year age gap between us, 11-year age gap. So you have that as well. But we did not grow up in the same town. You know, my hometown, the town that I consider my hometown is not the one he considers his. I went to high school somewhere else. So hopefully that kind of gives you an answer, some insider lore there. But yeah. Okay. No other chats, right? Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate the love. Yo, W, I know I'm dragging it. I just got to toot my own horn for a moment. Look at that thumbnail. W, huh? Isn't that not good? Pretty nice, right? Got Vance, Kushner, Witkoff's old ass. 3 dummies, really. Dumb, dumb, and dumber. So I'll set the thumbnail for the video now. And we'll get some clips out tomorrow. Thank you so much, everybody. Until next time, we will see what happens on Friday. But don't bank on this ceasefire really lasting much longer than I think it will, which will probably be maybe a few days, at most a few weeks. Official S1 says, official S1 Asher says, do you play video games? If so, collab. I don't play any video games, man. I used to, bro. I don't even own a console. And I don't play on the PC like that. So, no, I don't. I don't play on the console, man. I gotta get like a gaming console. I just don't have time. I don't have time. I don't mind video games. I just don't have time, bro. I'm working full time, and then I'm doing YouTube. I'm editing a lot of the videos, doing the thumbnails, you know, and then I'm hitting the gym. So for me, my day is wake up, work, stream, whilst I'm paying attention to the news the whole day, gym, right? Gym before the stream, sleep, repeat, which is no problem, right? It's the grind. I love it, but no time for the games, man. But hopefully, if I'm not working, maybe I'll just be a bum and play Rocket League all day. GTA 6 will probably get me back on the PS5. GTA 6, when GTA 6 is out, you guys will get a gaming stream. Me and my brother will probably play it. I'm sure he'll hop on. GTA 6 is going to revive the gaming world, the gaming culture. So, God bless you all. Thank you for the support. Again, shout out to the mods. We love Desert Joe. God bless you. We love Tia. We love One Chest. And I think there's one more mod I'm not remembering. Sorry. But shout out to all you guys. Shout out to all the members. And until next time, I'm actually under stream now, okay? There's no last minute super chats. Thank you guys. Love you. Jump over to Fresh and Fit to continue watching my brother. And support him on Kick. Follow him on Kick if you haven't already. Until next time, guys. Okay. I just got another super chat. Which camera did you upgrade to? That's from Giovanni. Thank you for the super chat. It is a Canon R8. Canon R8 EOS. I don't know shit about cameras, man. And I got 2 fans running behind it because it gets too hot. L Canon. But it looks good, right? Does the stream look good, guys? If you were watching from the first day I started this YouTube channel, we started like a month and a half ago. I was on a webcam, a Logitech webcam that I actually got for my job for like $200. So it was free for me, but it was like a $200 webcam. And it was looking like GTA San Andreas. It was really bad. So now we got a high quality stream. Nice quality setup. And better quality show. So hopefully that answers the question. It's like a $1,400 body, $200 lens. All in, you're like $1,600 to $1,800. Not bad at all. Looks great. Thanks. Some people are saying, look at W Camera, WTPC Films. He helped me set up everything and gave me the camera settings and stuff. So shout out to our guy TPC. We love him. Super clear. Yeah, it's so clear that you can see every pore in my face, and then people talk shit when I come back from the gym and try to start the stream on time that I'm sweaty. Like, what the fuck you? I had some dude the other day. It's tongue in cheek. I'm not actually serious. Some dude the other day chatted in. I read the chat, and he's like, yo, bro, if an ant was walking on your face, it would drown in the oil. I'm like, all right. Like, maybe the camera's too clear. This is 1080p. This is not 4K. So I could run 4K, but it's logistics with the computer I'm not willing to deal with. So, yeah. People just roasted me. Anyways. Holy yap. All right, guys. Thank you for the super chats. God bless all of you. And until next time, we will be back on likely Friday, but who knows? We'll stay updated. Peace.